Hello and good evening and happy Thursday to everyone. It is time for another open mic, which I was just realizing when I was scheduling the stream. It's been almost a month or maybe longer since I had an open mic. So it's good to be back for a good one-on-one discussion. Let's see here. The last one was on just under a month. It was on the 17th because I had a gaming roulette. And then I had an achievement chasers. And we took a week off for Halloween. So it's good to be back for another open mic because I always love having a one-on-one conversation about video games with someone. And tonight I've got a channel debut I've not talked to before, and that is Pop Culture Mechanic. Hello, Pop Culture Mechanic. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Neil. Hey, chat.
Glad to get you on and talk some video games for a little while. So, I don't know how much you're familiar with me, but I'm a little bit more familiar with you, although I haven't really spent a whole lot of time on your channel. But I think the first time I got introduced to you, not online, like on a stream or anything, but just like became aware of your presence was a couple of years ago, well before I started my channel, because I spent a lot of time over in Nerdporial's chat back when he was really into gaming and did a bunch of gaming streams. I think that's where the first place I met you. I don't know if you remember me from back then, because before I started my channel, I was Brobafett, but now I'm Nerdy Neo, if you remember that.
I do remember the name Brobafett. Yeah. And yeah, in Nerdporial. Wow, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, so because Brobafett was my kind of online persona before I started my channel. But because I knew I wanted to have my channel focused on video games, I centered it around my gamer tag, which is XNeo21X, which I've had since 2006.
Nice.
So I was like, that's where I came. I was like, what's something kind of catchy around Neo? And I was like, oh, I'm nerdy Neo. So I went through a lot of stuff. But when I started my channel, I went with Nerdy Neo. But Brobafett was my account before. So if you remember me from way back, that was also me.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
But yeah, I still talk to Nerdporial every once in a while, and he shows up in stream. But he's been focused a lot more on like movies and TV shows and stuff, which and a lot more modern stuff that I don't really follow. So I haven't really spent a whole lot of time on his channel lately. But he I remember because I recently started doing because my big genre of my number one genre is Metroidvanias. That's kind of my thing. And so I recently started doing Metroidvania Mondays. So I've been playing through Metroid games, and I started off with Zero Mission. I actually put it to a poll on Twitter or X or whatever, and people picked like play a Metroid game. So I started with Zero Mission. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play through all the Metroid games. And just this last Monday, I finished AM2R, which I'd never played before. And I watched most of Nerdporial play through that way back. So I've now finally played through that now too. So are you much of a fan of the Metroidvania genre?
I mean, I was playing Castlevania before there was
before
they even coined the phrase Metroidvania. You can go a little further back for me because I don't know, a bit older.
I was going to say, from what I've gathered, I think you got me by a few years.
Yeah, I'm 51. No, okay. Not gonna lie. So I've played like Intellivision, ColecoVision, Atari, the Coleco Telstar.
I've not heard of that one.
That's one where didn't have any controllers, but it just had two knobs, and you could pick your sort of a Pong game. So if you look,
I've probably seen pictures of it though.
Yeah, you know when you see it. But I've been playing a lot of that stuff. But as far as the Metroidvania stuff, oh yeah, I mean, that was one of the first games I ever played was Castlevania 2.
Okay, because Castlevania kind of has, it's now branched into more than just these two. But originally they were just like action platformers, and then when Symphony of the Night came around, they basically changed directions and went in the interconnected open world-ish, which is kind of one of the key cornerstones of the Metroidvania genre. So there was, if you say Castlevania, it's like there was kind of like two different things. There was like the action platform, which was very linear, and then there was like the Metroidvania one. So it sounds like you were definitely a fan of the originals. Did you like Castlevania games after they kind of changed into that Metroidvania genre as well?
Well, I don't think I got to a lot of them because I didn't have a PlayStation as I was getting in 1995. I didn't buy one. I was always the uh,
Okay.
Nintendo camp, so I pre-ordered my N64, and we
Yeah.
had to wait for Castlevania 64 to come out.
Oh, I've heard that. So, just to give you a little background, I was also a Nintendo kid, but I got my introduction really to the Metroidvania genre was when I think it was Fusion and Metroid Prime came out like very close to each other, and I got them both, and that's when I really fell in love with the genre. Or I should say, I got introduced to the genre. It wasn't until probably about like 5 or 6 years ago that I really fell in love with it, and Metroidvanias became my thing. But the only Castlevanias I've played, the first Castlevania I ever played was Lords of Shadow, which was a hack and slash, and that's why I played it. Is because I love hack and slash games.
Yep, yep.
Then when I finally, when I got into Metroidvanias, although like I said, I it was probably around 2017, 2018 where I was like, I really got into them, but I did like the genre, and I was like, well, I gotta play because I'd played Super Metroid not on original hardware. I played it modded years later, probably in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. But I never played Symphony of the Night, which everyone is like, that's like the cornerstone of the genre, because it's Super Metroid and Castlevania are really like the grandfathers of the genre. So I was like, well, I will 9 times out of 10 take sci-fi over fantasy, so that's why I like Metroid better than Castlevania. But I was like, I gotta play Symphony of the Night because everyone like talks about it so much. So I didn't actually play Symphony of the Night for the first time until 2016, and I played the Xbox Live Arcade game version. So I'm not that I don't like Castlevania, I just don't have a huge background in it. So when it comes to you talking about like you hadn't really played a lot of them other than like Castlevania 64, is like I never even played Castlevania 64. Most of what I know about Castlevania is from talking to my good buddy DJ Axis, who is also a huge Castlevania fan.
Nice.
So, but yeah, so tell me, I've heard that Castlevania 64 was terrible. Is that accurate?
Well, actually, because I had seen the reviews of it, I didn't even buy it when it was back in the day. So I was just like, okay, well, I'll just leave it, and I got a lot of playthrough of Castlevania 3 and Super Castlevania for the SNES. Those were really well done games.
Okay.
Number 3 and number 4.
Yeah. So I've picked up because I've been picking up a lot of games. I haven't been starting a lot of them because I'm currently I'm an achievement hunter and a completionist, and my main platform is Xbox, and so I'm big on the True Achievements website. If you're familiar with True Achievements at all.
No.
Okay. Well, anyways, they do events and stuff, and one of the community members of True Achievements his gamer tag was Bean Potter, and he came up with this concept called a bean dive, where people like have all this giant backlog of games that they don't play, and so the idea is like you get an achievement each one of those games, and then you start, and it drops your completion percentage because it doesn't actually add to your gamer tag until you get an achievement in a game, and then you work back up to the percentage you were at when you started. So I've been doing that very slowly. So I'm working my way back up, but I've been backlogging a ton of games for when I complete my current one, and I'm going to start another one with a crap load of games in it. But and I've been picking up a ton of Metroidvanias whenever they go on sale. So I picked up the Castlevania Advance Collection, which I heard was really good.
Oh, nice.
And then the Dominus Collection just came out recently, and that was like a shadow drop, so that was exciting. So I'm waiting for that. I'm also very frugal, so I don't buy anything until it's like 50% off with all the DLC. So I'm patient. So it's on sale right now, but it's only 20% off. I'm like, that's not enough. So once it goes on for like 50% off, I'll buy it. But I wasn't planning on getting the original like platformer Castlevanias, but I just mentioned DJ Axis. He was on, I had him on for an open mic a little while back, and we were talking about Castlevania, and he convinced me. So I picked up the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, which has all of those early platformer Castlevanias before they turned into Metroidvania. So the ones that you're talking about that were really good are in that collection. So I will be playing those at some point as well.
Oh, you'll have a good time, that's for sure. And that's the retro gamer's lament is I'll put it in my backlog. because I know I got one too. Mine, I buy games, but it's like, oh, I haven't gotten to them yet. So
yeah, I have a good, well, not that your reason is any less valid, but for me, it's like I'm trying. I track my completion percentage. I don't put a game on my tag unless I intend to actually play it. So you're not going to find anything with any games on my tag where I have like one achievement, unless it's something that I'm going to play at some point because I dived it essentially. Whereas like other people don't care about the completion percentage and they'll just play whatever. It's like I don't put something on my tag unless I intend to actually play it. So I've got and I've been working on this dive for like 4 years. I'm like, I've got to get this because I've got so many games that I'm really looking forward to playing. So I'm like, it's like I gotta put my pedal to the metal and get this recovered so I can get to all these good games I'm looking forward to playing.
Yep.
So you were a fan of the classic Castlevanias. Were you a fan of the Metroid franchise at all?
So I had Metroid for the NES, and you try to work your way through that, and it is hard. It is hard to get through. Like the original, no map, no quick saves. You gotta go by password, and it's just, man, this is crazy. You have to draw your own map to find your way around. No, I did not stick with it after that.
Oh, yeah, totally understandable. I have not played the classic original Metroid, but I will at some point, and it's because my buddy, who you might have heard, who's on my Dark Souls streams, Dude1286, he's familiar with the Dark Souls franchise, so he's kind of coaching me through it. And he's also an achievement hunter and completionist, so we do an achievement stream once a month called Achievement Chasers.
Mm-hmm.
He introduced me to a website called Retro Achievements, which is all community run, and it's people go and patch in essentially achievement sets to classic games like Atari games, NES games, Super Nintendo. So I've been really into that, and he's written a number of achievement sets, and he wrote the achievement set on Retro Achievements for the original Metroid.
Wow, that's crazy.
So he convinced me, because I was like, because there's also achievements for Zero Mission, which I just recently played through again for the first time in forever. But he convinced me. He's like, hey, I wrote the achievements for the original Metroid. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll play the original one as well at some point. But yeah, he's written a number of achievement sets for some really great games. Like my particular platformer of choice. So my first console was a Super Nintendo, and the first game I ever owned was bundled in with my Super Nintendo when my grandparents got it for me for Christmas when I was a kid, and that was Super Mario World. I liked it, but I was never big on Mario. My platformer of choice back in the day was a Donkey Kong Country games. I loved the heck out of those. And he wrote the achievement sets for at least the first Donkey Kong Country as well. And he might have done 2 and 3. I don't remember. I'd have to go double check. But yeah, he's written some achievement sets for some great games I'm looking forward to playing.
Yeah, those were superb games. The Donkey Kong Country ones, 1, 2, and 3. Rare did such a good job. It's too bad they've fallen away by the wayside.
Not entirely their fault either.
No.
I like I said, Xbox is my platform of choice, but I'm not like an Xbox shill, because I'll still give Microsoft crap for their stupid decisions. Like, they've completely wasted Rare. They bought it and they've done almost the only thing like notable that they've done with Rare since they acquired them, 10 years ago, is the freaking Xbox avatars.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You don't have to be a shill, and you can hold their feet to the fire if they're not doing what you think they should do. I mean, I do it to Nintendo and Sony. They need it.
Yeah, my one of my favorite, and this was a Rare franchise as well, because one of my favorites of Rare, obviously, it was GoldenEye. That was a huge thing back in the day. That was really what got me into first-person shooters. But it was Perfect Dark. I think took everything GoldenEye did and did it better. They're both fantastic games, but it was always a bummer to me that Perfect Dark didn't sell anywhere near as good as GoldenEye did when it was such a better game.
Yeah, done the spiritual successor, they called it, and it's probably just because of the name. And they, if they would have had a 007 name to it, I'm sure it would have done really well, but it didn't.
Yeah, and then the 360 launch title, Perfect Dark Zero, which was actually a prequel, but it came out after, obviously, because the original was on N64.
Yep.
Was a bit of a disappointment. I am a defender of it. I still think it's a decent game. People say it's terrible and it sucks. I think it's okay, very middle of the road. But it was exciting because that was the original Perfect Dark was my favorite game of all time for like years. So I was very excited to hear that Perfect Dark is making a return when they finally showed some footage of it this summer. I was digging it. But it's like they gave her I've dubbed her Joe-Mana Dark because she looks like a man. It's like, can't you keep some of her femininity? Because she was a hot character. She was my first video game crush, which is one of the things we talked about on the first episode of Party Chat.
Yeah, I don't know what they you make things look aesthetically pleasing, and the people will gravitate towards that. That's a good lesson they should learn.
Yeah, so the gameplay looks good, but I hope they give her a little bit of a redesign before it comes out and give her a little bit of her her femininity back. But I doubt it, given the track record that most of the AAA industry has gone lately.
Yeah.
But were you sounds like since you were an N64 person, I'm assuming you probably played a heck of a load of GoldenEye.
Oh yeah, me and my buddies, they'd come over, and so we're in our mid 20s when the N64 comes out. So yeah, we're battling four player split screen there, and doing all that stuff, throwing time bombs at each other.
One of my favorite, there were so many little tricks and stuff in GoldenEye that a lot of people didn't know about, like the remote mine. You could basically, because you were supposed to throw the mine and then switch to the detonator and then detonate it. But what you could do is you could, if you threw it and then hit A and B together, it would detonate instantly without having to switch to the trigger. So you can just throw it in like people's faces and blow it up at any time.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Or you'd paper the walls with them and wait for somebody to walk by and just hit the switch. Yeah.
It was, good times. So did you play much of Perfect Dark on N64?
Did I have Perfect? I think I had Perfect Dark. Yes. Yeah. So I put a bit of time into it. It couldn't get very far. There was a lot. I have quite the collection of, I still have my N64 games, and
yeah, I got mine right there.
No, there you go.
With Perfect Dark in it, because it was that and Ocarina of Time are my favorite N64 games, and Ocarina of Time is my favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Jet Force Gemini,
another great rare.
Yeah,
that's one I 100%ed it back in the day. That game was freaking hard to 100%, but I'm looking forward to playing it again through retro achievements for the first time since I played it back on N64.
Yeah, no, that's what a fun game. Like I don't know if it's got like if it flew under the radar or people just didn't pick up on it. Like, because I'm glad I did pick it up.
And I didn't think about it until just recently. I'm like, that was because there was first person shooters were a big thing, but it wasn't really until like Gears of War came around that really made third person shooters like its own genre. It was like, when I think about like the first third person shooters, I didn't play these. I always wanted to because they looked cool, but was like Kill Switch. And there was another one that was very similar to it. I always forget the name of it. Blast. I was just thinking about it just the other day. But those were on like PS2 original Xbox. I always forget about Jet Force Gemini. That was like one of the early third-person shooters. That was on N64.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and it had a whole swath of great games to play, like Mischief Makers. Paper Mario was on there.
I know that's a popular one. I'm not big on like I do like RPGs, but I like real time. I don't really like the turn-based stuff, so I was never a big fan of RPGs until I discovered real-time Western RPGs when I discovered Oblivion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it had Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, Rogue Squadron, Shadows of the Empire. Like, those are good Star Wars games.
Yeah, I owned. Let's hear. You said Shadows of the Empire, Rogue Squadron. What was the one you just mentioned before that?
Episode 1 Racer.
Episode 1 Racer. Okay. I didn't own that on N64, but I did play it on N64. I rented it. That's right. I rented it. But those other two I did. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, like real Star Wars, pre-Disney.
Yep.
So Rogue Squadron, that was another one I did 100%. I got gold medals on every mission. That was one of the most difficult things I did on
Wow.
back in those days, because there was a couple of missions where getting gold was like nearly impossible. I remember the most difficult one was, I swear it was, I don't remember the name of the mission, but I think it was the one where there's a prison on Sullust, I think, and you had to like rescue the prisoners. And I had to play that one so many times, but I finally got the gold medals on all of them. I'm planning on playing it again for retro achievements. I don't think I'm going to put myself through getting all those golds again, though.
Yeah, you've did it once already. You're good.
And I've still got my cartridge, so I could boot it up, and I have proof that I actually did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shadows of the Empire was another one. I love that one. That was another early third-person shooter. I didn't think about that. That is a third-person shooter.
Yeah.
I haven't gone back to it since, but I am looking forward to playing that one for retro achievements at some point as well.
Yeah, why not? I mean, that's another great game.
Where is it? I mentioned Kill Switch. I'm trying to find what the name of that other third-person shooter on PS2 was. But while I'm trying to find that, I want to say hi to the chat. I've had a few people pop in here. Christian Frades is here saying hi. What's up, Christian? Good to see you tonight, buddy. How's it going? And someone I have not seen before, David Glenn. Hello, welcome. Wow, I've been waiting for the stream to start using the link posted. Y'all must have had to create a new instance. I didn't. I
just used the one that was for the one on YouTube here. I just hit share and did it in a Twitter post. So, yeah, but hey, David,
have you had any trouble? That's weird, because I didn't have to. This is the one I scheduled back on Sunday. But my good buddy Carl is here, my co-host on Party Chat, seeing all my guests. Yes, there have been many times where he'll have someone on, and I'm like, I want to talk to them, so I'll get them on my open mic as well. So yes, shamelessly stealing your guest, Carl. And Christian says, have you heard of Grant Kirkhope? I've heard that name before, but Christian is always full of all sorts of crazy facts that probably no one else knows. He composed the rare games, including GoldenEye, DK64. Oh, that was another one. I love that one. Did not 100% that one, but got close. Banjo-Kazooie, Viva Pinata, Perfect Dark, Grabbed by the Ghoulies. I don't know about Grabbed by the Ghoulies, but I do know all the rest of the... Oh, I'm assuming so, since you mentioned rare games, but I'm not familiar. I know the name Grabbed by the Ghoulies, but I don't know the game itself. But I know the rest of those are all rare games. I'm assuming that one is as well. So... that's probably, I bet you I've heard that name from when I had Christian on open mic before, would be my guess. Because I was like, I do know I've heard that name before.
Yeah, and
my good buddy Rocket Dude is here waving. So what's up, Rocket Dude? Good to see you tonight. How's it going? So, okay. So what do you said you're mainly a Nintendo guy now, so would it be safe to say that Switch is your main platform of choice at the moment?
So I'm sorry, I should clarify. I used to be,
or you grew
strictly up Nintendo. I grew up Nintendo.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
same here. I was
Nintendo,
and then I switched over to Xbox because of Halo.
Yeah, so I grew up with those early consoles, the Atari, the Intellivision, and Coleco, and all that. But then, yes, Nintendo came along. They changed everything just from watching Super Mario Brothers. I don't know if you can, maybe you can imagine the feeling of having played on those other consoles and then all of a sudden seeing Super Mario Brothers for the first time and being like, this is incredible. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Look at how fluid the animation is. Look at the music sounds great. Like it wasn't just bleeps and bloops. It was actual music to go along with it. And it was changing. Like it was life-changing. It literally changed the way how people played the games with first of all, with the controller. Because up to that point, nobody had the controller that Nintendo had. And then...
and you're talking about the NES controller, right?
NES, yes.
Okay. So I was just thinking in my head, the N64 controller. It's like, what were they thinking with that thing? Are you a defender of the N64 controller?
It didn't bother me. It did what it had to do at the time, and that was bring the world into 3D, and they did it the way they thought was best.
Yeah, I had no issue with it at the time. I mean, I was in middle school, but looking back on it, it's like That was not really a well-designed controller. I spent most of my time on N64 playing with a third-party Mad Catz controller, which was designed with only 2 prongs, so it
Oh,
made a
okay.
lot more sense. It was I think it was Mad Catz, might have been Nyko or Nico, I don't know, NYKO, one of those third-party
Oh, yeah.
brands,
Yeah.
but, I liked that controller much better. I'm pretty sure I still got it. I don't know
It's
if it
always
still
good.
works, though.
Well, it's and as far as like I say, I did my Nintendo thing up until I think the Wii, and I'm like, I don't want to flail my arms around when I play.
I still have my Wii. I mean, you can actually see it. It's turned around because it's facing the TV on the other side of this wall, but you can see my
Oh,
Wii right
okay.
there, still hooked up. Because I was super excited about that. I could not wait to play Twilight Princess because I love Zelda and like
Mm.
adding motion controls to it. It was a bit disappointing because it wasn't like 1-to-1. It was just like you have to swing it hard enough for the gyroscope to register, and then it would swing.
Okay.
I like the motion controls, so when they had like 1-to-1 in Skyward Sword, I was like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. But a lot of people hate on Skyward Sword, which I'm one of them, but most people hate on it because of the motion controls. I had no problem with the motion controls. My issues with the game were elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I eventually, well, I got a Wii U, and
Okay.
I picked that up, and I liked it.
I've heard that was actually pretty good, but yeah, it was a complete marketing blunder because I've
They
never even seen
yeah,
one in person.
they should never have named it anything to do with Wii. They should have dropped that completely and called it something else.
Yeah, it's people. It's like, is this just like, can I buy the tablet for my Wii? It's like, no, it's an entirely new console. It's like, why didn't you make that clear to people?
Yes, that was a big mistake. But then after that, I did go back and I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of good PS2 games I want to try out. So I bought myself a PS2, a fat one, and
Fat PS2?
I bought a fat PS2 from up here they're EB Games, but
Okay,
they're
GameStop down here.
GameStop. Yeah,
Because you are
they're
in the Great White North, if I remember
yeah.
correctly.
You are correct, and
Okay,
it's actually all GameStop now. I guess they rebranded up here, and they're like, no, everything's going to be called GameStop. So
okay. Because a fat PS2 is not. Because like I know the fat PS3, it's like it's like football shaped if you're looking at it from top down.
yep,
Are you talking about the PS3 or are you talking about
nope,
PS2?
PS2. I bought it. I got a fat PS2.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that there was a fat PS2.
What? Really?
Unless you're just talking about it's thicker than the really slim
Well,
one that
there's
they
the
came out with later in the life of
yeah,
the
there's
game.
the PS2 Slim, which came after. That would
Okay.
you'd have to open up by hand. It wouldn't pop out automatically or whatever. But the fat one was the thicker looking one, I guess.
Okay. Because when I picture a PS2, because I've never owned a PlayStation, but when I'm picturing a PS2, the what you're calling the fat one is what I'm picturing, but I don't think of that as being fat because it's very slim, just not as
Okay.
slim as the thin one was. So that's
Yeah.
just because I don't know PlayStation stuff. So okay, I follow you now. I was
Yeah.
thinking fat like the PS3 because it's very bulbous,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just the one that's thicker than the super thin one that they released later. Gotcha. All right,
Yeah. And I
I'm
have one of
tracking.
those too. I grabbed one of those, and then yeah, we all got all the kids from the parents got a PS3 that year. So in 2007, no, 2008, I think I got a PS3, and there's a
Let's
lot of
see
good
here.
games for that.
PS3 came out a year after 360, and 360 came out in November of 2005. So it was probably 2006 if you got it on launch.
No, we didn't get it launched.
Okay.
We got it in 2008. So it was a little after that, but
Okay.
and yeah, love that thing to pieces. Played lots of games on it. It was in HD. It was great to experience that. Played Blu-rays. I still have it.
Oh, PS3, right. Yes, I'm still thinking PS2. Yeah.
I still have that too.
I was like, no, the PS2 was it was because it was a DVD player. But yeah, the PS3 was the Blu-ray player because the
Yep.
360 didn't have it inherent, and that's still when the format was being determined, and Xbox backed HD DVD, which I was backing as well, but I knew it was never going to become the
Womp
standard.
womp.
Um,
Sony
I
learned from
was
Beta.
I was tempted to get, because they did have the attachment for the 360, the HD DVD player. I was tempted to get it and get some HD DVDs. So I was like, I just have a feeling that Blu-ray is going to win, so I'm going to hold out. And good thing I did. But by that time, by the time Blu-rays really became prominent, it was like a lot of things were going digital. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't anyways, because still to this day, I think I have like 3 Blu-rays, maybe.
Oh wow, I'm a real collector of physical media, so I've got like shelves and shelves of DVDs and Blu-rays and VHSs and all that stuff.
I've still got all my DVDs. I just never ended up buying any Blu-rays.
But yeah, I've branched out from being a Nintendo fanboy to all the other ones except for Xbox, because I have problem with Microsoft. That's all.
Okay. But I do want to ask you about that. But I found the other third-person shooter I was trying to remember.
All right.
It took me long enough, but it's Kill Switch and Siphon Filter. Those are the 2 early ones I remember that I was like, those games look cool, and I always wanted to play them, but I never did, because I think Kill Switch came out on Xbox, but I'm pretty sure Siphon Filter was only on PlayStation. But I never ended up playing either of them. So I thought Gears of War was like my introduction to third-person shooters, but I just realized, it was Jet Force Gemini and Shadows of the Empire.
There you go.
But got another familiar face, Captain Keeley, saying "G'day all." Hello, Captain Keeley. Good to see you again. And Petey York, who I saw was in another one of my streams recently. Good to see you again, Petey York. And Taco Bell will win the franchise wars. Is that a reference to Demolition Man?
It could be. That was a great show. That's a great movie.
Yeah, that is a good movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I watched it in a watch party, so we were talking a lot. So I've seen it in its entirety, like focused on it, but that was like 20 years ago. So the only time I saw it within like the last 2 years was in a watch party. So wasn't fully focused on it, but I have seen it. It's just been a really long time since I've like watched it with the full focus. But yeah, it's one of those ones that people like call prophetic. That and the other one that I hear a lot of people like, oh, it was prophetic way before its time, and that's Idiocracy.
Oh man.
I was saying when I first saw Idiocracy, because I want to say Idiocracy came out in like 2011. And I saw it probably within the year it released. And I said, when it came out, I'm like, this movie is prophetic.
Yeah. It's like, is this a documentary?
Oh, I was way off. 2006, not 2011.
Oh, okay.
So I probably saw it in the late 2000s. And even then I was like, this movie is prophetic. But that's also a fun movie as well.
Yeah.
So, yep. He says, yep, Demolition Man is one of the greatest movies ever made. It is a good movie. I do like it. And yeah, yes, it was. So cool. I called it. Because I know Taco Bell is a big thing there. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Yeah, that's Idiocracy. I was a big fan of Taco Bell before, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. They gutted half their menu and just got rid of it. And everything that I liked from Taco Bell was on the half they got rid of. So I barely ever go to Taco Bell anymore.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not a big fast food guy, so I try to stay away from it.
I just don't eat a lot of fast food in general anymore since I work from home. When I was working in the office, I would get it once or twice a week, but now I have it maybe 2 or 3 times a month.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, I rarely go to Taco Bell, but I did love it when they had my favorite stuff on the menu, and it was literally across the street from my office, so I had it too much. But okay, so they have gorditas and tostadas right now. Okay, I don't really care about either of those. So I'm curious to hear what your issue is with Microsoft.
Okay, well, not only do they have their operating systems on like 90% of the machines. And don't forget, this is when they were coming out with the first Xbox. And so my thought was, how dare you? It's not enough for you to have all the operating systems on all the computers and get money from that and have billions of dollars. But now you think you can come into the video game space and bring your machine here, and you're going to take on Sony and you're going to take on Nintendo, and you think you're going to be able to do things better than they've been doing for many years before that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to touch your stuff. You go do what you want to do. And I'll just stick with my Nintendo.
Okay. So does that mean that you've never played any of the Halos?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, like I said, I was a Nintendo kid, and then when Xbox came out, all my friends had Xboxes, and they were huge into Halo, so I got really into Halo.
There you go.
But and we played a ton of it. That it was I didn't even have my own Xbox until really late in the Xbox life cycle because I didn't need my own because we were always at each other's houses and everyone else had one, so I didn't need one myself. So I was really good at the original Halo without even having an Xbox until really late in the life cycle. But we were really good. I remember that a couple of fun stories about Halo was we were all super excited for Halo 2 because it was because Halo 1 was a launch title on the original Xbox, which came out in November of 2001. And then Halo 2 came out we just had its 20th anniversary because it came out in November 2004. The 20th anniversary was just a couple days ago. I don't remember what day it was. I'd have to look it up, but we were all super excited for it on the launch night because that was back in the days before everything went digital. We still had midnight releases for stuff, and that was a lot of fun to do.
Well, stand in line.
Yep. The GameStop we went to, I think we went to this GameStop because of this. They were having a Halo 1 tournament the night of the Halo 2 launch, and whoever won the tournament got Halo 2 for free. And one of the guys in our group won the tournament, and I did okay too. I think I made it through the first couple of rounds. But the guy who was the best in our group, he won the tournament in totality. But we all ended up buying Halo 2 ourselves.
That's awesome.
But we were not big fans of Halo 2. We played the multiplayer on it because none of us had Xbox Live at the time because it was still before anyone had. Because broadband internet wasn't a thing yet. Everyone was still on dial-up. And you had to have broadband internet to use Xbox Live. The thing is, I don't even know if Xbox Live existed yet when Halo 2 launched, or whether it was Xbox Live became a thing after Halo 2 launched. I'd have to look into the timing on that to see it. But we were, like I said, we were all at each other's houses all the time playing LAN parties with usually 6 to 12 people. A few times we had all 16. Those were some of the best times in high school. But we played Halo 2 multiplayer for a few weeks, and then we went back to playing Halo 1 multiplayer, and basically until we were all in college and Halo 3 came out. But yeah, Halo 3 is my favorite. But yeah, it's a bummer that you missed out on the Halo games because they are great. For one, my personal order of the first 3 at least is 3, 1, 2. 2 is my least favorite of the first 3. Not that it's bad. But Reach is also great. ODST is also great. That got a lot of flack when it came out because it took are you familiar with Halo ODST?
I just know the title. I've never seen it.
Because it kind of took it in a little different direction, whereas the other ones are all very linear, but they're in pretty decently sized levels. And but it's very linear. It's like you have to go here to beat the level. Whereas ODSTs, it was an open world they built this whole city, and you're ODST, so you're not Spartan, so you're just normal Marines, although they're like the top of the top, just not enhanced like Spartans are with the special suits of armor. And you're exploring around the city, and because you get separated from your team, your squad, and the game you go through trying to track down each of your squad members by finding something that happened when they landed in the city. And it's basically each mission is a flashback of that character and how they got to where they are at that point. So it was really cool, but it got a lot of flack because it kind of took Halo and did it in a different formula than people were used to at the time. But I think a lot of people looking back on it, it's like, you know what, ODST was a really good game. But 4 and 5 kind of started going downhill. I haven't played Infinite yet, so I can't really say anything on it. I've heard it definitely got more on track, but pretty much mostly everyone agrees that 5 was terrible, at least for the campaign. I think the multiplayer was pretty good from what I hear, but the only ones I played online a lot was 3 and Reach, and since then I've gotten out of the PvP side of things. I just much more enjoy the single player. My favorite thing to do online with other people, though, is co-op. I love co-op versus AI rather than player versus player stuff. So do you have a lot of enjoyment in the PvP side of things? Or are you more of a single player person as well?
I mean, back in the PS3 days, I'd play some Call of Duty and get online there and just shoot up people and team attack. And yeah, that was okay. I didn't mind that. That was pretty fun.
Did you have a favorite Call of Duty?
Black Ops.
Okay.
Or Modern Warfare.
So, yeah, I wasn't huge into Call of Duty. I played 2 and 3, just the campaigns. And I played Modern Warfare 1 and 2. The only one I actually played online for a bit was Modern Warfare 2 because my buddy in college was super into it, so he got me into it for a while. And then I didn't play another Call of Duty for like 10 years until they rebooted Modern Warfare. So I don't know anything about those ones in between. But Modern Warfare 1 and 2 back in the day, those were huge. So I figured you probably played one, if not both of those. But I know Black Ops, a lot of people like Black Ops 2 is like their favorite. I just never played any of the Black Ops games. So, and 6 just came out. So I don't.
Oh, wow.
I've heard that people are liking it.
Yeah, I mean, the last Call of Duty game I bought was World War II, just because I'm a big World War II fan, and it was for the PS4, and I thought, you know what? I think it was for the PS4. Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? I want a good game to play with this, and so I went and got it and played the campaign, and I don't think I did any online stuff, mostly because they want you to pay extra for that or a battle pass or something like that, and I'm just like, no. I'm not going to do that.
That's right. There was a period of time when you had to pay extra. If you bought the game new, it came with the code to unlock the online mode, but you had to pay extra if not, because that was their way to try and get money off of resales of games, was charge people for the multiplayer separately. It's a good thing that was a short-lived fad.
Yeah. I mean, I pay for the game. The game's expensive. I'm going to pay you again for it. That's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah. So did that one also have zombies? Because I know that's another part of COD that a lot of people have gotten super into.
I think so. I think it did. And I might have tried it, once or twice. You're in a house or something and they're breaking in and you got to try to fend them off. And yeah, it's fun for a little bit, but it just kind of drags on.
Yeah, it's given that I love like co-op stuff. You would think that the zombie mode would be like right up my alley because you can play it. I think early on you could only do it in 2 players, but it's since expanded into at least 4, if not more. Like I said, I don't know anything past the original Modern Warfare 2 when it comes to like the multiplayer side of things. But yeah, it just never really clicked with me. I was never really interested in the zombies mode. But there are other multiplayer modes that like my favorite game of all time, and it's my second most hours in a game ever, is Mass Effect 3, and I've spent like 1,000 hours playing the multiplayer in that because I just love it so much.
Wow, that is a lot of time.
So I do a multiplayer Mass Effect Monday once a month, just so anyone who wants to join me can play Mass Effect multiplayer with me, because I just love any excuse to play it. And I've been playing it since it came out. The longest break I've probably taken from it since 2012 when it came out was 2006. Since it came out in 2012 was about 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So I play it pretty regularly, and once a month I do it on stream, and people can join me. The next Mass Effect Monday is going to be this upcoming Monday if anyone wants to join. But yeah, like that one I love, and it's not that flesh. I mean, are you familiar with the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer mode at all?
No, I know the game, haven't played it, but yeah, what do you guys do?
It's basically just like a horde mode from Gears, where it's you and up to 3 other people. So you can have up to 4 people, and it's just 10 waves of increasingly difficult enemies, and then on wave 11 you have to hold out for 2 minutes and then extract. So it's not too complicated, but I just love it, and like I said, I've spent nearly 1,000 hours playing, and I still don't have everything maxed out. It did have loot boxes, which you could pay real money for, but I've never spent a single cent. I've only used in-game credits. But it was always mentioned. It's funny because one of the early games that got a lot of flack for loot boxes was the 2 main ones was Battlefront 2 from 2017 and Middle Earth Shadow of War and people like were all up in arms about the loot boxes in those games. It's like Mass Effect 3 had loot boxes in 2012 and no one batted an eye at it. So it
Yeah.
was kind of funny, but regarding that. But yeah, still to this day, I still don't have everything unlocked in the multiplayer because just the drop rates for the ultra rares are so rare. But there's not a lot to it. But that one just hooked me, and I love it, and I will take any excuse to play it. But yeah, the zombies and COD just didn't click with me.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of your favorite games, eh? The Mass Effect.
Mass Effect franchise is my number one favorite video game franchise of all time, and 3 is my favorite game of all time.
So one that I've put a lot of hours into is a Valkyria Chronicles for the PS3. I put a lot of time into that, and it is so worth it.
I know of it by name. That's a JRPG, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like a turn-based, tactical, over-the-shoulder strategy game with cutscenes.
That's probably why I don't really know much about the game. Just before I kind of get into that, Christian also mentioned a good point that ODST introduced Firefight, which is basically Halo's version of Horde mode, where you and 3 other people can fight increasingly difficult waves of enemies. But that one goes on. It was broken down into like 5 waves equal a set, and like 3 sets is a match, and then like 3 matches is like a full game. And if you can make it all the way to the end, like it takes like a couple of hours to get through all of them if you can even survive that long. There was an achievement for that in ODST as well, and I remember when we finally did that, that was pretty crazy, because it got down to, you have a shared pool of lives too. So if you have someone who keeps dying, that takes the, we're weighing the rest of the team down. But I may be getting that not exactly right, but it was kind of like you had 5 waves that make up one smaller set, and then you have like 3 of those make up a larger set, and you have to do like 3 of those to actually complete it. So those ones, if you were going for the whole time, could be pretty time consuming. But that was fun because there was a lot of, you get, just like Halo multiplayer, the settings in it were just like nuts. So you could like customize it to any way you wanted, although that got more expanded upon in the later ones when they added Forge mode. But yeah, Firefight and ODST, it was pretty fun as well. And Amon-Ra is here with his customary moo. Good to see you, Amon-Ra, always showing up. So, but yeah, Valkyria Chronicles. So I know of it. Like I said, I was never a fan of JRPGs. So I'll play almost any genre of games, but there's basically 3 genres I just don't bother with, and that's fighting games, JRPGs, and real-time strategies. And it sounds like that game is 2 of those 3 genres. Yeah,
it is. And it's something, all right. Like when it starts out, telling the story, and then it shows you how to play. You have to move tactically because you only get so many points to move, and then once you're ready to do your action, after you move, you can do an action. We either shoot or whatever it has to be, and then you go down to behind the shoulder as to whichever person it is, your scout, your machine gunner, your tank killer, whoever it happens to be, and then you do your action there, and then you go back up to the main map and you pick your next person to move. So you got to strategize a bit as where you want to put them, because you can't leave them out in the open. It's just like real war. You'll get shot. So you have to take cover and all that kind of good stuff. It was very enjoyable. And there's been 4 of them so far.
I was just going to ask something. I know there's more than one of them. How many are in that franchise? There's 4 Valkyria Chronicles?
There's 4 right now. Yeah. One came over to PS3. 2 and 3 were on the PSP, but number 3 never came out of Japan.
Okay.
It stayed there. And number 4 came out on PS4, Switch. So it's finally available for the updated consoles.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, PlayStation, Switch, that makes a lot of sense. Although, because JRPGs have historically not done well on Xbox, like sales wise. Xbox has not sold in Japan very well. I think they just stopped selling them not that long ago because they're selling so terribly in Japan. So that doesn't surprise me. But speaking of the things on Xbox, Christian mentioned that Microsoft needs to improve backwards compatibility. There's always room to improve, but of the 3 platforms, PC excluded, the console platforms, Microsoft does do it best. But yeah, I would love to see more games get added to the backwards compatibility list.
Yeah, me too. For any of those guys, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, like, yeah, they have IPs that are wasting away. They're not even doing anything with them, and that's why people like to play them on emulators and that, because you can't get them anymore, or they're so obscenely expensive.
Yep.
Who's going to buy it for original hardware when it costs like, $1,000 for a game? I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that's Nintendo's obviously notoriously the worst about that. People are like, "Hey, we want this game. Can you port it to, Switch?" And they're like, "No."
Yeah.
It's like, "Let us give you money." They're like, "Nah." Okay, well then I'm gonna go emulate it over here because I'm not spending, $1,000 on this obscure game because the only place it exists is in a physical form. And they're like, "No, you can't do that." It's like, "Okay, well then let me buy it from you." Like, "No, we're not going to do that either." It's like, "Well then, what do you want me to do? My hands are kind of tied here."
Tell me what you want me to do.
And then PlayStation is not nearly as much of a mess, but it's like the certain PlayStations have backwards compatibility for certain previous generations of PlayStations. It's like
Yeah.
PS5 can play PS4, but not PS3, and PS3 can play PS1 and 2, but only if you have the launch version, and the later
Yeah.
PS3 can't do backwards compatibility. I may not have all of that right, but it's somewhere close to the truth. It's like, what Xbox, if it's backwards compatible, except there was one game someone just informed me about just recently that it was backwards compatible on 360, but not Xbox One, which blew my mind. I don't remember what game it was, but for the most part, a large chunk of games that are backwards compatible are on, whatever previous platforms. It can be played on anything after it for the most part. So
Yeah.
there's it wasn't one game. There was actually a few games that I learned that of the original Xbox that were backwards compatible on 360 that are not backwards compatible on Xbox One or Series X, which I did not know about. I thought everything that was backwards compatible on 360 was also backwards compatible on the current consoles, but there are a good number of original Xbox games that are playable on the modern Xbox, and a huge chunk of 360 games and everything that was released on Xbox One, with the exception of ones that required special peripherals, are also backwards compatible on the series consoles. So, of the consoles, Microsoft has done the backwards compatibility the best, but as anything, there's always room to improve.
Yeah, and good for them for doing something right. I mean, so we know Sony's not. Like, I don't know what their problem is, but they've got to straighten up and fly right somehow.
And yeah, some of the stuff that they do have as backwards compatible is only on their service, or like you can't buy it, or it's only streamable. You can't actually download it and play it natively.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and then Nintendo's got their online service, and yeah, you can play NES, SNES, Genesis, N64, but
You
yeah,
can't buy them.
you
They're
can't buy
only
them. Nope.
available through the service.
Yep.
That's why people like, I don't like Game Pass. It's like, everything that's on Game Pass you can buy and own, and you can stream games, but you can also download them and play them natively. So it's like, I don't understand that argument. Unless you're
No.
talking about physical, then yeah. But you're also, I saw someone in the chat just today say something like, if I can't get it physically, then I'm not buying it. It's like, there's a lot of games out there that are digital only these days. So you're missing out on a lot, especially I was watching after the fact, so I wasn't able to talk to them in chat, but it's like, oh, so I guess you're not a PC gamer, since everything on PC is digital only now. There hasn't been a physical release of a PC game in like over a decade. So it's like you got to have some sort of in between, I think, because otherwise you're missing out on a lot if you're doing physical only, because there's just so much good stuff that is digital only these days.
Yeah, don't deny yourself the stuff just because you can't get it on physical. If you like what you see, or you've seen people play it, give it a shot. It might. So if it's digital, well, as long as you enjoy the game.
Yeah, and one of the other nice things about Game Pass is that if you are subscribed to it, any game on the service that you want to buy has a 20% discount.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, that's the one that I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Microsoft does we're not selling this game. The only way you can play it is on Game Pass. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I don't think it will, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. But to this day, everything that's on Game Pass you can buy and own if you want. Whereas, Nintendo, like we said, you can't buy it. You can only subscribe to their service to get access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they do a lot of that stuff the best, but like there's definitely room to improve.
Like I've seen people say, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo. They're gonna do what they want to do, and they don't care what you say.
Yeah, I say that probably almost once a week. Nintendo's gonna Nintendo. But you know, it's a perfect encapsulation of, or I don't know if encapsulation is the right word, but that's a great example of what they do, because they do some of the dumbest things, but they do some of the best things too. Like on the other, like I said, I haven't really followed Nintendo a whole lot since the Wii. I do have a Switch now, but I only got it this year, and I only have a few games for it. But the only games I would play on a Switch are ones that are exclusive to Switch. If it exists on another platform, why would you play it on a Switch unless you're playing like on the go, then sure. But if you are mostly like an at-home gamer, which I would think that a good majority of gamers are, why would you get a game on the Switch when it exists on another platform and is going to be a much better quality product? Because like a great example of that is when they ported the recent Mortal Kombat 1 to Switch. God, that thing looks like that was a travesty.
Yeah, I mean, the let's face it, the graphics card in the Switch is from 2015.
Yeah,
like
it's
they don't have anything updated, but the new one that comes out, hopefully that will, make up for the shortcomings that we have right now. And they said it's going to be backwards compatible.
Yeah, they announced. It was funny that they announced that during the election last week. It's like great timing, you guys. But I didn't need them to announce it, because I knew that like there's no way they could be so dumb as to make it not backwards compatible. I knew that whatever the next Switch, I'm hoping it's the Super Switch.
Super Switch.
Are you on the Super Switch bandwagon too?
I mean, I like that name pretty good. Yeah, the Super Switch. Switch 2 just doesn't sound good. It's got to be a Super Switch.
And Nintendo's never done a number 2 of any console, so I don't think that they would start now. But they did NES and Super Nintendo, so I would totally understand them doing Switch and then Super Switch. But yeah, where I was going with that was, I knew that there was going to be backwards compatibility. I know no way they were going to be that dumb that they wouldn't have it. So it's like, oh, well, thank you for confirming what I essentially already knew. Can we just get a release date now?
It's got to be before March, I think.
But that's where I was going with that, is that the thing that they do well is their games are well put together when they release, and they're not like beta tests on release. And you spend the next 6 to 12 months having the early adopters just being your unpaid beta testers, and then the game is finally playable months later. Cough cough, Cyberpunk, which I've heard turned out to be a great game after the fact. But that was definitely an example of a bad launch that's turned into a good game after the fact. Same with No Man's Sky. That was not a good launch.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
That trend has just become too prominent with other platforms. You don't really hear about that on Nintendo games. They seem to put out a good quality product on launch.
Yeah, quality control. It's one thing they've got a hold on, and they should keep that up. Never mind how fast you want the game out. Make sure it's not buggy. It's because people get soured, and a lot of people did by some of those other studios that are just trying to pump games out. They don't pre-order, everybody. Do not pre-order. It's just giving them a blank check to do whatever they want, and they won't give you what they promise. They won't deliver. Don't pre-order.
And that's exactly where I was going with this thread, is that the last game that's two separate things, is the last game I pre-ordered and the last game I bought on launch. I think they were the same thing, because I haven't bought a game on launch. The last game I pre-ordered was Destiny 1 in 2014. And that's my number one most hours played in a game of all time. I love Destiny 1, but it's not in my top 5 favorite games of all time. I just loved it, that there was always something to do. Mass Effect is, like I said, my number one favorite franchise. But Destiny 1 is my most hours in a game. That was the last game I pre-ordered. I think that was also the last game I bought on launch. Until recently, I realized that you could call this launch because it was within the week of its release. I didn't even. I thought I bought it like a year after it came out, but I was looking through it. I'm like, oh, I bought it like a week after it came out. But it was a well put together product, and they added more stuff to it, but it worked on launch and it wasn't glitchy. So the most recent game I actually bought on launch was the Tony Hawk 1+2 remake, and that was a fantastic collection of the first 2 Tony Hawk games, because I was a big Tony Hawk fan of those games back in the day. Were you into the Tony Hawk games?
I can't say that I was. I'm probably a little too old for that when it came out. So
understandable.
I was playing Skate or Die on the NES.
I've heard of that one, but if you like put a bunch of clips of like different skating games, the only way I would know that one was Skate or Die would probably be by process of elimination, because I would probably know what all the other ones are between Tony Hawk and Ride and whatever other skateboard games are. So I wouldn't know it by if you just showed me a screenshot of it and said, what game is this? I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I have heard the name.
Okay.
But anyway, I was a big fan of the Tony Hawk games. I had the first one on N64. I played the second one on Game Boy Advance, and then I had the third one. I got it on when I came home with my GameCube on launch day. I had Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I remember that day vividly.
Nice.
But when they put out the collection of 1+2 of Tony Hawk, that was a great put together remaster. And that was probably the last game I bought on launch, but that was not on launch day, but it was within like the first week. So, but all that to say is that because I'm a huge fan of Metroid behind Mass Effect is my number 2 favorite franchise in video gaming behind Mass Effect, and Prime 4 will probably be the first time I pre-order a game since Destiny. So basically 10 years, just because pre-ordering has got such a negative connotation towards it, because there's games launch in such bad states nowadays. But Nintendo puts out quality products, so I don't really have a hesitation with pre-ordering a game from Nintendo. But like I said, I'm also frugal and patient, so that's why I usually wait for stuff to go on sale for 50% off with all the DLC after the a year after it's been out or whatever. But Prime 4, I will happily play that full price on day one.
Yeah, if it's anything like the other ones, like the first Metroid Prime game, Metroid Prime 1, Metroid Prime 2, yeah, you're in for a great time.
Yeah. I do need to play through Prime 3 again. I haven't played it. I did do a full playthrough of Primes 1, 2, and 3 back in like 2016. I think that's probably the last time I played Prime 3. But I played Prime 1 and 2 this year. And I played Prime 2 just a couple weeks ago because, as I mentioned earlier, the retro achievements that dude has written a few achievement sets for some of the older consoles. The GameCube launched into retro achievements in July. And so I've been playing a lot of GameCube games lately. And the first game I played when it got achievements was Metroid Prime. That was the first game I ever got a mastery on retro achievements, which means I got all the achievements in it. And Metroid Prime 2 achievements just launched a few weeks ago. So the day those achievements came out, I jumped on it because I was like, I want an excuse to play Prime 2 again, because a lot of people didn't like Prime 2. I loved it just as much, if not more, than the first one. The first one's probably a better game, but I love them both probably equally. So I was itching to play it again. But Prime 3 was a Wii game, and it'll probably be a while till Wii gets added to retro achievements. But I will definitely play it before I play Prime 4, because Prime 4 will be coming out next year, and I really doubt the Wii is going to get added retro achievements in the next year, since we just got GameCube.
Yeah, it'll take a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was actually... So what have you been playing lately? Like I just said, I've been playing a lot of GameCube games lately, because they did... there's a launch event for the GameCube launching into retro achievements, where there was... And it ends tomorrow afternoon. So I'm getting really down to the wire on this event. But what the event is you can, depending on how many points you can get a bronze, silver, or gold medal to go on your retro achievements profile, saying, this is what level you got on the GameCube launch event. And how the points work is, for every game you beat the story, you get a point. And for every game you get a mastery of, meaning you got all the achievements in it, you get another point. There are some games that are really long or really difficult that may be worth double or even triple points. So if you beat it, you get 3 points. If you master it, you get 6 points. So when they announced this right before the GameCube event launched, I was like planning out, like, okay, I think I can do 30 points. Oh, so it was 10 points for bronze, 20 points for silver, and 30 points for gold. I was like, I could probably do 30 points for gold. That's not going to happen. I could have done it, but because I've been streaming so much, I don't really play as much as I used to because I'm streaming typically like 4 days a week. And typically it's just discussion streams like this or playing Xbox stuff. So just because of that, I haven't had enough time to do it. With a longer amount of time, I could have done it, but I was like, I'm absolutely getting bronze for sure. I'm going to try to get silver, but right now I'm currently sitting at 12 points and it ends tomorrow afternoon. But I've got a couple of games where I'm really that are both double and triple points that I'm really close to beating. So it's possible I could still pull it off. So I got the mastery for Metroid Prime, so that was worth 2 points. I beat Metroid Prime 2 a couple weeks ago, so that was worth a point. So I've been playing a lot of GameCube games. The one I've been playing today was the Clone Wars game, which I didn't even know existed until earlier this year when Carl told me about it. But what have you been playing lately? Have you been playing anything lately?
Oh yes. So I stream Saturday mornings. So I'm a weekend streamer, except for my trades talk which is on Tuesdays.
Okay.
But, so I'll be on. I'm on in the mornings because it works out the best time. My wife's a night owl. I'm an early bird.
Oh, you're weird.
So she's no. It comes with the territory. I've been getting up early for 30 years. So
30. I've never understood how like the concept of being a morning person eludes me. I don't understand it.
No, it's goes with the territory. Your job starts early, so you get up early. So. But
yeah, being in the trades, I would assume most of your work is probably done earlier in the day.
Well, I love my I love my shift because it's 7 to 3.
Okay.
That's great. Like I get off before rush hour. It starts up. It's great. Like I can get lots of stuff done.
Yeah, I was always like, can I have like a 10 to 6 shift or something like that? I don't want to be up early. I'll work later. That's fine with me.
Yeah, there's some people out there that like that, but I'm working on the weekends or doing my streams on the weekends. Saturday is retro game day, and I've had a list of. I keep a track of what I've been playing. Right now, I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Nightmare Troubadour for the DS.
Oh,
because I love Yu-Gi-Oh!
I was just talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! a week or so ago. I call myself I love the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise. I would call myself like a hardcore casual, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about me too.
I watched the anime for. I think I watched the entire Yu-Gi arc. I never watched anything like GX or past that. But I played the game. I when I say I played the game, I was really into the card game, the TCG. I only did like one tournament ever, and I did pretty good. I think I made it to the semifinals, but nice. I played it very casually, and a lot of what we did was just between me and my buddies in college. We had like we didn't even like follow like the official like TCG rules and what cards were banned and stuff. We had decks that were based on the characters and didn't matter what their like TCG rulings were. We played with like character decks, and some of them the cards didn't work, like the actual cards don't work like they do in the show. So we had the rules where the cards work like they do in the show, not how they work in the TCG. So that was a lot of fun, but I haven't kept up with it. I do have Master Duel, but I've still never played it online because I'm like, I don't want to go online and just get wrecked instantly by these people who play competitively and have these super powerful decks. And I have no idea what's going on. Like the only thing I don't understand, like concept wise, I still don't understand how link monsters work, but I understand how pendulums work. I understand how exceeds work and fusions and synchros and all that stuff. But like whatever the meta is in the TCG currently, I would have no idea. So I like the game. I haven't followed it. So that's why I call myself a hardcore casual, because if I was like play against people, I'm going to get destroyed, but I do like it. So, were you into the TCG as well?
So yeah, I'm the same as you, just casual, right? But I like the cards. So I've collected the cards and I've played, and I haven't played any tournaments, but I'd play friends and all that, and we'd have a good time, and I wouldn't win, but that's the way it goes. Yeah. So I collect the cards, watch the show, and of course, because I'm into anime, I watch the subtitled version and then season 0 and all
I
that good
have
stuff.
seen season 0. So you're a
Yeah.
dub or you're a sub, not dub person. Is that
Pretty
right?
for the most part, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I like the subs, and I watch the abridged version, which you just laugh yourself silly.
I love the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, and that's along those lines. I'm not really big in anime. I've seen a couple of them, but the only DBZ I've seen is DBZ Abridged, and that was hilarious. I've never actually seen the actual anime, but I've seen plenty of DBZ Abridged, and I watched pretty much all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. That was hilarious. I loved those.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Little Karibo does a good job, and he does all the voices, at least in the early parts he does. But yeah, and that's fun, and it's that's what I've been playing on recently on my stream Saturday. I'm gonna keep continuing that until I beat, gotta beat Seto Kaiba.
Yeah,
because that's what you got to do there. You can take them on.
It's like, I'm gonna throw down a face down. That's not how it goes. Did you just summon a whole bunch of monsters in one turn? Yeah, you can't do that. Screw the rules. I have money.
Screw the rules. I have money. Exactly. That's what he's all about. Oh yeah,
good stuff. That makes me want to go back and rewatch it.
So that's for my stream. When I not on stream, I'm playing.
Just a second before you move on to what you're doing off stream. So you're doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Which one was that you're doing on stream?
Nightmare Troubadour for the DS.
Troubadour for DS. Okay. And how are you streaming that? Do you have like a camera over it, or are you using an emulator?
Emulator. So I'll emulate it and just use Restream.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, just curious. Oh, and my streaming buddy is here. What's up, my streaming buddy? Saying W for Yu-Gi-Oh! We watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Every Monday. Just started with season 3. Sweet.
Nice.
Right I would love to go back and just rewatch the whole show again.
Oh yeah, it gets crazy, and do yourself a favor, watch the abridged show stream, buddy.
Yeah, watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. It's hilarious.
When I'm not streaming that or picking which games to stream.
Sorry. One other thing while we're on the topic of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before you distract, do you have, because I haven't played a whole lot of different Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. If you have, do you have a favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Game?
Right now for the Switch, I've got the Duel Links. I think that's what they call it.
Okay, I've got Links? Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution.
Okay,
I have that one on X because they basically had 2 versions of that. They had Legacy of the Duelist, and then like a year later they re-released the exact same game, but it was Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution, because I think that's when Link monsters were introduced into either the TCG or the anime or something along those lines. So they added it into the game. So it's the exact same game, but it has Link monsters in it now as well. And I do have that one on Xbox, but I haven't played very much of it yet. But I have liked the little bit that I played.
Yeah, and when I play that game on my Switch, I don't go past the OG. I don't play GX. I don't play 5Ds. There's Zexal or Vrains or whatever it is. I stick with the old stuff. The old stuff is good.
Have you played Master Duel?
Master Duel.
Yeah, that's the free-to-play one that's on basically everything.
Oh, did it come on a CD-ROM back in the day there?
No, it's the current one. It's like the modern game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. It's on mobile, it's on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, it's everything. And it has crossplay, so you can play against people on anything, and it's free to play. But it has loot boxes essentially. But it is pretty generous with the in-game currency. So I'm assuming that you have not played it then.
No, yes, you are correct.
Okay. Because like I said, I've not played it online against anyone, but I have played it a little bit, and I've built up a couple of decks. The thing is that the reason why I was asking what your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Game is because the way that Master Duel does it, like the main focus of the game is the online component versus other people. It has what are called gates for the single player. But as far as I've only done like 4 or 5 of them, but it's basically a tiny mini campaign of duels, but they're themed around certain things. And as far as I've seen, you can't use your own decks. You have to use the decks that they, and it's not even a deck that you get to keep. You only get to use it for this little campaign of duels. So you have to learn each deck as you're going through these gates. I was literally Googling it earlier this week to find out if you can use your own custom decks in these the solo gates. And people are saying that you can, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. Because that's what I'd want to do. Because my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh game was Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual Generations. And that was a mobile game as well. And it was free to play. But a lot of anything that was actually good was locked behind microtransactions.
Yeah.
But I played it on my iPad. And after the next free-to-play game that really took off after that was they went from the horizontal aspect to a vertical aspect, and they made it like a faster pace one, and so you only had like 4,000 life points rather than 8. You could summon 3 monsters. Shoot, what was it called? Where is my Yu-Gi-Oh folder? There it is. Duel Links.
Okay.
So I played that for a little bit because somebody got me into it, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. But after Konami shifted their focus to Duel Links, they basically gave up on Dual Generations. But what I loved about Dual Generations was you could go online and play it against other people if you wanted to, which I had no interest in doing. But it had a really long, fleshed out campaign and it was Dual Generations. So you had your original generation of all the main characters that you would have seen in like Duelist Kingdom and Battle City, and each character had 2 decks, and you only had to beat 1 deck in order to move on to the next one. But you could, once you've beaten them a number of times, that same character a number of times, you could pick between which deck you'd want to play against. And it had basically like 2 pages of characters for each of the generations, all the way up through, I want to say Zexal was the last one. So that was like the best Yu-Gi-Oh campaign I've seen in a Yu-Gi-Oh game. Like I said, I haven't played a whole lot, but that was like perfect. I love that one. And the thing that was great about it was I had my iPad jailbroken, and I figured out how to unlock all the cards without buying any of them. So I was able to build all the decks I wanted, but they were introducing more new cards into the newer games that they didn't add to this one because they had moved on. So there's like, oh, I want to build this deck, but these cards aren't in this game. But I had a lot of fun just building these decks and playing them in those campaigns. I loved it. And I still have it. I've got it right here, and I could load it up. But the thing was that they had some way to detect it. So if you did do this jailbreak trick, it would unlock all the cards, but you couldn't go online and play it against anyone, which I had no interest in doing anyway. So I didn't care about that. I'm like, go ahead and ban my account from online. I don't care. I just want to play the AI. And it was great. I loved Duel Links, and I would love, or not Duel Links, Dual Generations. But they don't have a lot of the newer cards that I would like to play with. So that's why I haven't touched it in forever. I wish I could just play that game forever, but have it constantly get all the new cards that come out added to it. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that was one of the best parts, is buying the cards and building your deck, like trying to get yourself up there, more powerful cards, figure out what kind of deck you want to use, whether it's making people lose life points or adding more to your own, or if you're going to go out and be like Seto Kaiba and get all the blue eyes white dragons, all that kind of stuff.
Do you have a an archetype or something that's your favorite?
For the TCG, I like the Merrick deck, because I would use that, and that's where people have to lose their life points. Sorry?
Was that the one with Raw?
I'd have to check, because I don't remember having Raw in that. It's probably...
That's what he used in the anime. So
that's what he used, yeah. But his deck would make it so that you would lose life points. Like, he would make it so you'd not by attacking you, but by just passively making you lose life points.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I built a number of decks in Dual Generations for a number of different types. Like, I mean, who hasn't built an Exodia deck? But one of my favorite monsters, it wasn't like a great monster, although I did just learn just like a week or two ago that it got a bunch more support, and it's actually a viable deck now because they've added new fusion monsters and some other type of monsters. Was Yubel. That was introduced in GX. Like I said, I've never seen the GX anime, but I really like that monster. Are you familiar with Yubel?
No, I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
So it was a real pain in the butt deck if you were going against it, because how it worked was it was almost like a Pokemon where it evolved and it had to get to its third evolution to really become, fully powered. And the base version was Yubel. It's level 10, and it's immune to all damage. You can't damage it, and it was 0/0 attack and defense. But in order to keep it on, like I said, it's level 10, so you had to use 2 tributes to summon it, or some other type of special. Like, my main thing was I would send it to the graveyard, and then I'd special summon it from the graveyard rather than tribute summoning, because that takes too long.
There you go.
But the thing was, in order to keep it on the field, you had to tribute another monster at your end phase. So it could be a pain in the butt to keep it on the field. But you don't really want the first form of it on the field anyways, because it can't attack. But the thing was that if you got the other person to attack it, then they would take all of the battle damage. But obviously they didn't have to attack it. But if you could coax them into attacking it, then they would take all the battle damage. Then the first form, the monster wouldn't be destroyed. So if you could force them into repeatedly attacking it, that was great. But that was pretty difficult. But it also can't attack. It has to be attacked in order to do it. So in order to evolve it to its next form, it had to be destroyed by something other than battle. So I had things in my deck so that I could destroy it myself, like Black Hole or something.
Yeah.
And then that would then destroy it, and it would trigger its effect, because you can't summon its second or third forms by tribute summoning. The only way to summon it is through destroying its previous form. So the second form was called Yubel Terra Incarnate, and it had the same effect where it's 0/0 attack and defense, but it can't take battle damage. And it was level 11 since the previous one was level 10. And you didn't have to tribute in order to keep it on the field, but every end phase it would destroy all of the monsters on the field. So it was a great way to wipe the field of opponent monsters. But if you could get enemies to attack it, it had the same thing where they would take the battle damage. But it couldn't. I mean, you could attack, but since it's 0 attack, nothing really happens. Then similarly, you'd want to destroy it to get it to its third form, Ultimate Nightmare. That form can attack. And then when it attacks the monster, then they take whatever damage was the attack level of the monster that it battled.
Whew, that's one powerful card.
So you basically want to get it to its third form as fast as possible, and then give it like a way to attack multiple times, because on the previous form, it wipes all the monsters on the field. So if you could get it to the second form and then the third form immediately, the field's not wiped, and then you have monsters to attack and they take all the damage.
Yeah.
And it was basically invincible to anything other than battle, or it was immune to battle damage. So the only way it could be destroyed was with non-battle damage. So that was like my favorite deck. It wasn't great because it was slow, but I just love that deck. And it just recently got a bunch more support with some like synchro and fusion cards. So I was like, ooh, I might have to build a deck like that in Master Duel.
There you go. That's awesome.
So sorry to distract you from where you were going with what you've been playing off stream so many times, but this is probably the most I've actually talked about Yu-Gi-Oh, because I typically just talk about video games, but this was in a Yu-Gi-Oh game, so I was like, yeah, it works.
No, that's good. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh is a fun time. It's a fun either playing it as a card game or in the video game. And the video game's good. Yeah, the video game's good because you don't have to remember all the rules. It won't let you cheat.
It's annoying though when I've been playing a deck of the actual TCG and then I play it in the game. It's like not letting me do these things. I'm like, why are you not letting me do these things? It's like, because I've been playing it wrong and I didn't realize it, because there's all these things like involving timing and stuff. A great example is on the Yubel cards. On the first one, it says when this card is destroyed, you can summon the second form, Terra Incarnate. But on the text of the Terra Incarnate card, it says when this card leaves the field. So it doesn't actually have to be destroyed in order to trigger its effect to summon the next form. So I was like, oh, sweet. What I can do then is because I don't have to destroy it, it just needs to leave the field, is I'll tribute it so I get a powerful monster on the field and I get the next form, the third form of Yubel. but apparently it misses the stupid timing and it doesn't. You can do one or the other, but you can't do both. I'm like, no, the card says when it leaves the field, I get the third form of the monster. I tribute it. It leaves the field. I get my powerful monster and I get the third form. But because of the stupid timing rules, it doesn't work like that.
Come on, Konami, sort this out, all right?
It's like, I met the conditions on the card. I should get both. They're like, no, it doesn't matter. The timing misses. I'm like, what is this timing crap? I've met the requirement that the card says. It's like, it creates a chain. You got to resolve the lower link on the chain first before the higher one. And because of that, I'm like, that's not what the card says. So stuff like that would piss me off. But
justice for Neo, everybody. Justice for Neo.
Although that did play in my favor in that one tournament that I actually did play. I was borrowing my buddy's deck, and he had a Frog Monarch deck, which was I loved that deck too, because it was based on Treeborn Fog, and you basically constantly summon it during your standby phase, then you tribute it for one of the monarchs, and each of the monarchs had a different effect when you normal summoned it.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun deck to play. So I took, and he also had Obelisk in that deck as a really powerful monster, because you could easily get 2 cards on the field and then tribute for Obelisk. So that's the deck. I borrowed his deck to go to that tournament, and the duel that I lost, which I'm pretty sure was the semifinals, was because the guy I was playing against had a remove from play deck, which it was at the time it was still called remove from play. Now it's called banish, in order to save time on the text on the card. And so he kept removing from play my monsters, and I thought something along those lines, because I thought that I didn't meet the requirements for Treeborn Frog to summon on the standby phase. And he's like, oh no, the remove from play doesn't affect that. So I still got to use my Treeborn Frog. So that played to my favor that time, because I thought I didn't get it. He's like, no, you still get it. And I was like, oh, well, cool. It works differently than I thought, and that actually favored me. I still ended up losing because his deck just annihilated me. But there are occasions where you're doing it wrong, and the correct way actually plays in your favor. Just that's less frequent.
Yeah, geez.
So, and my streaming buddy says, abridged? I like a standalone season, or is it fan made order to watch? So, if you're not familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, it's on YouTube, or at least last I checked it was, but that was like 10 years ago. So I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not. But it basically, what the abridged is, they did it with Yu-Gi-Oh! And with Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if they've done it with any others, but they cut down the episodes and they dub over all the characters with their own voices, but it still goes through the story of what the actual anime goes through. It's just they dub over it with their own dialogue, and it's freaking hilarious. So I definitely recommend checking out the abridged of both Yu-Gi-Oh! And DBZ. And he says, same OG rules for me too for Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's what I know most well is OG. But I did like a lot of the stuff they added later. I did not like synchros for the longest time. I hated them. I thought they were way too overpowered. And then later on, they introduced the pendulum monsters. It's like, that is way too powerful. They did have to scale that back.
I didn't get in any of that synchronized pendulum, whatever they're doing. It's just like, no thanks.
My favorite of the other types of cards that they added were the Exceeds, where you basically put 2 of the same level, or it depends on, but they do have to be the same level. And the Exceed monsters have a rank. So if you have, it's like you have like it's different for each one, but sometimes it's 2 monsters, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2 or more, as many as you can, but they all have to be the same level. So if you had like 2 level 4 monsters on the field, you put them on top of each other, and then you can special summon the Exceed monster from your extra deck, and then it has those 2 or however many cards you had to put on it to summon it as material, and you detach those cards. Usually once per turn, you send the material to the graveyard in order to activate that Exceed monster's effect. Once you're out of materials, it just operates as a standard monster. But that was like my favorite type of one that they added. But pendulums were way too powerful. Synchros are because the power creep has just gone up crazy. I did not like synchros at first because they were too powerful. Now they got stuff that's way more powerful, so they're more balanced now. But the link monsters, I still don't understand how they work.
No, I'm not even going to try to understand.
But yeah, so hardcore casual is how I like to describe myself as a Yu-Gi-Oh fan.
Yep. I agree. Same with me. But yeah, not when I'm not streaming.
Now on to what you're playing when you're off stream.
And I've sunk 50 hours into this game already.
I have a feeling I know what you're about to say.
It's Dragon Quest 11.
Oh, I was off.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say ReFantazio.
No, I haven't gotten to any of those yet, but I've gotten into the Dragon Quest 11, and I got into playing. Well, I played Dragon Quest 4 on stream, and that was because Akira Toriyama passed on.
Yeah.
You know, the creator of Dragon Ball and a lot of other good shows like Dr. Slump, and he has a bunch of other manga that he did before Dragon Ball became famous. And so I'm like, you know what? Tribute to him. I'm going to play Dr. Slump from the PS1, and I played that. And it's about a little android girl who causes trouble. And I played Dragon Quest 4 for the DS. That was great. That took a long time to get through. And now for the PS4, I'm playing Dragon Quest 11, and that is an excellent game.
Okay. So Nerd Takes is here saying, "Hey everyone, good evening, Nerd Takes. Good to see you, buddy. Always fun to chat with. He was on Top 5 on Tuesday when we were ranking our top 5 favorite video game movies.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But okay, so Dragon Quest. I know almost nothing about this franchise. I know of it, and obviously it has a lot of games in the franchise. Is Dragon Quest 11 the most recent one?
Yes, I want to say yes. I don't think they've come out with 12 yet. Okay. But you would remember number 1 as it was called Dragon Warrior for the NES.
Okay, I was going to say, I know this franchise goes way back. Like the original was like on Super Nintendo or NES or something.
Yeah, NES. So Dragon Warrior 1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I remember playing that back in the day too. And it was, that was great back then for the NES. You know, they did change, like I say, they changed the name a bit, but the character designs were still the same. And you went along killing slimes and everything and had to take on the Dragon Lord pretty much.
Is Dragon Quest the franchise that the little blue with like teardrop
little slime? Yep.
That's from Dragon Quest?
Yep.
Okay. I've seen that in places. I'm like, I have a feeling that this is from Dragon Quest, but I'm not sure.
No, confirmed. It is.
Okay. And shoot, what was I just going to ask about Dragon Quest? Oh, I've heard because I think it was this year that it came out, but the big Pokemon ripoff that came out this year, Pokemon with Guns,
Pal World, yeah.
Pal World came out earlier this year. I want to say it was like February or so, and people were talking about like Nintendo's going to sue someone because it's basically ripping off Pokemon, and so Nintendo is now entertaining like the idea of like patenting or copyright in trademarking or whatever, some sort of monster capturing system. I think I heard that Dragon Quest had something like that back in the day before Pokemon. Do I have that right, or am I thinking of some other franchise?
I think you're right, but I've seen online, pictures of Dragon Quest monsters that came out before Pokemon was ever created, and it is uncanny how some of them look. Like it looks like they've borrowed
like Nintendo
designs
borrowed from Dragon Quest, right?
Nintendo, Game Freak, whoever it was, they borrowed designs that look very similar to the Dragon Quest ones. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't open up this can of worms, Nintendo. You may not like it.
It's like Dragon Quest or whoever makes them is going to sue you for infringing on your own copyright or whatever.
Square.
Oh, it was Square?
Square owns it's Square Enix now.
Yeah, I was gonna say back then it was before it was Square Enix. It was just Square.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious if they did, and then as soon as they do, Square sues them for infringing on their own.
Yeah. Knock. You can hear the knock on the door. Oh, who is it? Square.
Square's lawyers. Yeah, we like to have a chat. So, since there are so many Dragon Quest games, it goes back so many decades now. Have you played all of them?
Oh, there's no way I have the hours to put that in. But
it's because you more recently were introduced to the franchise. You haven't been playing it since the beginning. Is that right?
That's right. I played the
Okay.
very first game, but then after that, I was like, oh, okay, well, move along to other games.
And you played the first one after Toriyama passed, or was it?
No, I played
that?
the very first one back in 1990.
Okay, so you didn't play it again until
I didn't play the Dragon Quest number 4 until his passing. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's like a 30-year gap between
Yeah.
playing Dragon Quest games. Okay, so if you probably would have played them all if you'd kept up with the franchise since you played it in the beginning. But okay, yeah, catching up on that now, it's like Carl, he's a huge fan of the Persona games, and like he knows how much I dislike JRPGs. He's like, dude, you got to play it. I'm like, I'm the the completionist, so I'm going to be doing everything, and I'd want to start with the first one and work my way through all of them. It's like that's like at least 1,000 hours right there to play through the whole franchise. I'm like, no, I got way more games that I actually want to play. That's not going to happen. Literally last week on, or I think it was on Party Chat last week. He's like, how much do I need to pay you to play a JRPG of my choosing? I'm like, I'll have to get back to you on that because that number is going to be at least in the triple digits, if not quadruple digits.
We do accept Visa and PayPal, so
like. I do like the money incentive, but it would take a lot to get me to play a game that I have no interest in playing when I have a huge backlog of games that I actually want to play. And I spend so much time streaming. I don't play enough as it is right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm in the same boat. It was nice having Monday off for Remembrance Day, and I was able to get in some more hours of Dragon Quest XI because, man, that's a long. Any Dragon Quest game is long. Like it is long. You're gonna get a lot of hours into it, but it's gonna be so worth it.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid, you got a lot of time and no money, and then when you're an adult, you got money but no time.
Yeah.
Like, isn't there a middle ground?
Yeah. Do I have to wait till retirement or?
Yeah, for reals. The one, so like I said, JRPG is not really my thing, but my co-host on Top 5, Jason Tongate, tons of fun. There was a week where I wasn't able to do it, so he hosted it by himself, and he did top 5 JRPGs because he knows I'm not going to be able to do a top 5 because I don't play JRPGs.
Right.
So I did pop in real briefly for like 2 or 3 minutes on that one, and I made up my own list of top 5 JRPGs.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But on my list of top 5 JRPGs, I only had one that actually qualifies as a JRPG. And it's the reason why I like it is because it's not turn-based. But that's the Mega Man Battle Network games. Have you played or are familiar?
Yeah, okay. Right on. GameCube. Let's go.
Well, the battle game Mega Man Battle.
That's network transmission, sorry.
Yeah, so the Mega Man is one of my favorite franchises. I think it was I have to pull it up here. I think I put it in my number 3. Let me pull it up here. Top 5 game franchises real quick. Oh, I didn't even put it in my top 5, but I love Mega. It was in my honorable mentions, but I love Mega Man franchise. It just didn't quite make my top 5 game franchise, but I love Mega Man. Mega Man Battle Network. There's 6 of them.
Yeah,
and they're all on Game Boy Advance. And they did the same thing as Pokemon, where, starting with 3, I should say. The first 2, there was just Battle Network 1 and Battle Network 2. But starting with 3 and then on, they did the same thing as Pokemon, where they had like a red and a blue version, where it's the same game, but you can only get certain, instead of Pokemon, it's battle chips. Only certain battle chips show up in certain versions of the game. So my buddy at the time, he got Mega Man Battle Network White, and I got, Mega Man Battle Network 3. We both got Mega Man Battle Network 3. It's the only Battle Network I have played, but I really liked it. And he got the white version. I got the blue version. And you had to, in order to get all the battle chips, you had to either play both versions or trade with someone who had all of the ones in the other version that you didn't have. So we were able to trade the ones that he couldn't get from my blue into his white version and vice versa, his white into my blue version. I was able to 100% that game, which in order to 100%, there's certain requirements that you have to meet in the game in order to get a star that shows up on the game start page when you boot it up. When you start it up, there's basically start and options, and there's a little star that shows up next to start depending on which of the requirements you've met. So 1 star was like just for beating the game, you get a star. There was another star for beating the end game. Essentially, after you beat the game, you go through it again. It's basically like a new game plus, but with more all the bosses and enemies and stuff are higher level, and you can get new chips that you could get in the base version. You had to beat that to get another star. There was another star for collecting all. I don't remember how many chips there were in the game. Let's say there were 250 battle chips. You had to get all 250 chips, which required trading with the other version. There were 7 different things like that you had to do, and I did all of them. And that was a lot of fun. But the funny thing about that game, Game Boy Advance game, so I played it on the go, like it was before I could drive. So I got to play it like in the car on the way to and from school and stuff. But there was a timer in the game as well that showed you your play hours. When you saved your game, it showed you how many hours you had.
Yep.
But it stopped at 99 hours and 59 minutes. And that was probably only like half of me getting all the stars. So I probably easily played over 200 hours. I would say it was probably closer to 250 hours in this game, but I have no way to know because the timer stopped at 99 hours. It's like, this is a long freaking game. Why didn't you allow your timer to go over 99 hours? That's not uncommon for long RPGs.
Yeah, exactly.
So I never did play 1, 2, 4, 5, or 6, but I do have the Mega Man Battle Network collection, which I'm pissed that's the only Mega Man collection that does not exist on Xbox. And I'm really upset about that, and I've been throwing a fit about it since it came out like a year or 2 ago. But they basically, because it's Capcom, they were going to do the same thing with that fighting collection that came out in August, I want to say it was. It came out on Switch and PlayStation, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to bring it to Xbox. Everyone threw a fit about that one. So like, okay, we'll bring it to Xbox. So I'm hoping that they might finally bring the Battle Network collection to Xbox, because if a game exists on Xbox, that's where I want to play it because of the achievements and going on my gamer score and my completion percentage and stuff like that, because my gamer tag is, I've had it since 2006. So I do own it on Switch, and it's got its own in-game achievements, but it's not the same thing. It's like I want it on my gamer card where people can see it. So I'm hoping that there's hope that it will come to Xbox, but I don't know about that. But anyways, there were a couple spin-off games of the Battle Network, and there was Mega Man X, not Mega Man X, Mega Man Battle Network, or I don't know if the Battle Network is in the name, but Mega Man Network Transmission. That was a spin-off, and that was a GameCube game.
Right.
But it played very differently, because how Battle Network played was you play as Lan, this kid, in the real world, and Mega Man is basically like, they're called Navis, and they're basically like your personalized Siri, but they have like kind of like in the Matrix, which is my favorite movie of all time. If you didn't know, I'm sure it's pretty easy to guess. But in the Matrix, when they go into the Matrix, they have their what's called the residual self-image. It's kind of like their avatar of themselves in the Matrix.
Yep.
Their Navis have an avatar of themselves in the cyber world, which is like Mega Man or Proto Man, or all the different, each of your friends have their own Navis, and they have their own personifications in the cyber world. And in the cyber world is where all the combat takes place, because you're fighting viruses across the internet and, bosses and stuff. And it's all isometric, kind of like, the old 2D Zeldas, until you get into a battle, which are random for the most part, except for the bosses, just like, a lot of the older RPGs where you don't see any enemies and you're just running around, all of a sudden you're in battle.
Yeah.
When you're in battle, it goes on to a side view, and it's kind of like at an angle, and you're on a 3x3 grid. You and your opponent are on a 3x3 grid, so you can move in that grid, and you equip your battle chips that allow you to do more powerful attacks than just your standard buster. Mega Man Network Transmission is a side-scrolling platformer, just like the more traditional side-scrolling Mega Mans, like the Mega Man Classic games or the Mega Man X franchise, but it introduces that the battle chips. But where is Battle Network? the bar at the top fills up as you're battling, and every like 15 or 20 seconds or so, you can hit, because it was on Game Boy Advance, you hit your shoulder buttons to pause combat, and you can pick new sets of battle chips. Whereas network transmission is all in real time. You can't pause it, from what I remember, because I haven't actually played it in its entirety, but I did start playing it because it's a GameCube game, and it's on, I was like, oh, I'll play through this for part of the launch event. So I started it, but I just haven't gotten time to actually play through it in its entirety. But I played like the first like 30 minutes of the game. So I could be wrong about the pausing part, but you do get to equip your battle chips and you get to use them, but it's not in a grid base. It's in a side-scrolling platforming game.
That's right.
But you get to use those battle chips as you're going around in the 2D. So it's not in a grid base. So that's the main difference. There was also Mega Man X Command Mission, which is an actual turn-based RPG. But because I don't really care for turn-based RPGs, I've never actually played that one, and I don't intend to.
Oh, I like Mega Man as well. Like, even from I have the anniversary collection for GameCube, so I have games 1 to 9. Is it on there? And some extras that came out with.
And you're talking about the Mega Man Classic Anniversary on GameCube, right? Where it's the classic Mega Man, or are you talking about the Mega Man X collection?
No, not X. Just Mega Man Classic that came out for the GameCube. You can play games 1 to 9, I think. Okay. And I threw some more in there. And oh man, I tell you what, that's, if you haven't tried or played those Mega Man games, do it, because you won't regret it. It's so iconic, and they're so fun. The gameplay only gets better as the games go along in numbers. And you're encountering all the different robots to take on, and use this which ability you use on which robot, and same. And I have played some Battle Network actually for the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I like that a lot. It's a fun game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good time. And there's an anime out there if you want. You can watch Rockman EXE. That is based on. You'll know the characters from Battle Network. They're on there. And it gets wild and crazy. You have a good old time watching anime, and you can play the game at the same time, and it's fun stuff.
Yeah, and we got Smooth, the DJ, in chat saying, "Yo, what's up, Smooth?
Hey,
good to see you, buddy. I don't think I've seen you in a while, so I hope you're doing well. But always good to see you. So, so Mega Man, that definitely sounds like something we can bond over. Of all the different branching I don't know if timelines is quite the right word, but there's like the different branches of the Mega Man franchise. So Mega Man X is my favorite. Are the classic Mega Mans your favorite?
I would say, because I have not played a lot of Mega Man X. I don't think I ever got into that, but yeah, the class, I think Mega Man 3 was one we got for Christmas when we were younger, and we played the crap out of that, and of course, made it to the end and learned all the ways to go and to defeat Dr. Wily and all that stuff. And yeah, we just hammered that game, because I have quite a few brothers, so we would sort of it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm getting stuck here, pass it along to the next guy, and he'll take over and try to get further along. And we just kind of hammered games like that.
Okay. So the first stream I ever did on my channel when I started it last year was a stream with who I mentioned earlier, DJ Axis, and another friend of mine, Gino, 95, because he's a huge fan of Super Mario RPG. So he was super ecstatic about the remaster coming out last year. Yeah. But it was just the three of us talking about all things Mega Man for a couple hours. That was the very first stream I ever did on my channel. And because DJ, not only is he a huge fan of Castlevania, he's also a huge fan of Resident Evil, but he's also a huge fan of Mega Man. And his favorite is the classic Mega Mans. My favorite is the Mega Man X games. DJ is a little bit older than me. I think he's probably between our ages.
Okay.
But I grew up on the Mega Man X games because those were like the thing on, the Mega Man X 1, 2, and 3 are my favorites, and Mega Man X3 is my favorite Mega Man game. And those were 1, 2, and 3 were on Super Nintendo, and that was I was just the right age when those came out in the early to mid 90s. But I have played all of the classic ones as well, 1 through 10. Mega Man's 1 through 6 were on NES.
Yes.
7 and 8 were on Super Nintendo. And then 9 and 10, they went back because 7 and 8, they upgraded the graphics. And they actually look like Super Nintendo games. They're not pixelated like the NES Mega Mans are. But then 9 and 10, they went back to the pixelated NES look. But I know they released 9 and 10 on 360 on the Xbox Live Arcade. I don't know what else they released
PS3.
on.
I think I had number 9 on PS3. I saw it and downloaded it.
Okay, I was gonna say, since it was on 360, I'm assuming it also came out on PS3 as probably a digital only would be my guess. I don't know if it ever got a physical release.
I don't remember physical, just digital.
But yeah, Mega Man for the most part is another one of those like dormant franchises that I would love to see them bring back. Like I would love to get a Mega Man X9 because they did the most recent thing that they did with it was a few years ago. I want to say it came out in 2018. I could be wrong about that, but they did Mega Man 11, which was pretty well received. I have it, but I have not played it yet. Have you played Mega Man 11?
No, I haven't gotten to that one. It's just something that's been in the back burner.
Okay, so I'm almost positive that's on everything because I've got it on Xbox. I know it's on Switch. I'm assuming it's probably also on PlayStation. But it was pretty well received. But they did introduce some new mechanics. There was like this time slowing mechanic, and there was some other mechanic that they added that kind of changes up the gameplay a little bit, makes it a little more fast paced. So it looks pretty interesting. But I would, like I said, Mega Man X franchise is my favorite, so I would love to get an X9. For those of you who don't know much about the X franchise, X 1, 2, and 3 were on Super Nintendo, and Mega Man X actually came out before Mega Man 7 because that's the classic line of games. But that Mega Man 7 was the first one on Super Nintendo of the classic ones, but it actually came out after Mega Man X. But Mega Man X 1, 2, and 3, like I said, those are my favorite. X3 is my favorite of all of them. Then 4, 5, and 6 were PS1 games, and they weren't even on a Nintendo platform. They were on PlayStation and PC because that's how I played them, was on PC back in the day. X, 7, and 8 were PS2 games. Like I said, I've never had a PlayStation, so I never played those until they released the Mega Man X Legacy Collections 1 and 2 back in 2018. So that was my first time playing X7 and X8. But X7 had a reputation of being god awful, and it sure is. It is terrible. And the big part of the reason why is because X6 went and basically made it a 3D game rather than a 2D side-scrolling platformer. It's still a platformer, but it went to this like really terrible 3D. It switches back and forth between 2D and 3D, and it was just terrible. So it's definitely the black sheep of the X franchise. And when I'm talking about the X games, I love the Mega Man X games. I'm not talking about X7. So for the most part, I pretend it doesn't exist. And then a lot of people say that X5 and X6 weren't very good either. And X5 I thought was perfectly fine. But X6, when I played it on the X collection when it came out in 2018, I had no problem with it. I'm like, I don't get why everyone's hating on it. Like, I understand the hate for X7 because it's terrible, but I don't understand the hate for X6. But I played through all of them, and I really enjoyed X8. And then it changed up. It went back to the 2D side-scrolling, but it changed up how it plays in that you don't because at X4 you pick one character at the beginning, either X or 0, and you play through the whole game as that character. In X5 they changed it. X5 and X6 they changed it in that you can pick which character you want to play as at the beginning of each mission. But in X8, they changed it that you can switch between X0 and the new character they introduced in X7, which is Axel. You can switch between them at any time, like on the fly. But they went back to the 2D platforming, and it was much better. So I enjoyed X8. It was definitely better than X7. I don't know. I'd probably say I liked X8 better than X6, but X8 still gets a lot of flack just because it came after X6 and X7, and a lot of people didn't like those. But I would happily play an X9 if they ever released one. But where I was going with that was X. So like I mentioned with the GameCube launch of the retro on the retro achievements is I discovered that there was a Mega Man X collection on GameCube that I didn't know about because on the Mega Man X Legacy collection I just mentioned, there was volumes 1 and 2, and volumes 1 had Mega Man X 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Mega Man X Legacy Collection volume 2 had Mega Man X 5, 6, 7, and 8. They did the same thing with the classic Mega Man's Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2, and I believe it was, I could be getting this wrong. I want to say that Mega Man's 1 through 4 were on, or I think it was 1 through 6. Yeah, it was 1 through 6 because those were the ones that were all on NES, was on Volume 1. And then Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, Volume 2 was 7 through 10. So, and that was the first time I played a lot of those because I never played the classic ones back in the day because I had played X first and I was like, this is awesome. And I went back to the classic ones. I'm like, I don't like this. But being a big Mega Man fan, I bought both Legacy collections on Xbox, and the Legacy Collection 1 was the first time I played through the classics, and I did go through and beat it and got all the achievements. Same with the Legacy Collection 2. But with this GameCube launch event, I discovered that there was a GameCube Mega Man X collection, and it only had Mega Man X's 1 through 6. It did not include 7 and 8 because I don't think that those were out yet at the time, since those were PS2 games. So like, oh, sweet, I can play another reason to play some of my favorite Mega Man games, X, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, because I do like 4, but not as much as 1, 2, and 3. And I like 5. And people hate, like I said, people hate it on X6, but I was like, I never understood the hate for 6. So I played those just recently, and I went into it in depth on Achievement Chasers. And now going through X6 again for the first time since playing it on the X Legacy Collection, I understand why people hate it. It's of the 2D Mega Man X games, it's definitely the worst. There are so many things that aggravated me about it. So I understand the hatred for it now. Now when I'm going back through it for achievements, not just playing through it to beat it. And yeah, if you want to hear me really rant about it, the last 2 episodes of Achievement Chasers, I get really into it. But I understand the hatred for Mega Man X6 now. I don't hate it. It's definitely my least favorite of the X games, X7 notwithstanding. But there were so many things that drove me nuts about it. I had to put it on pause, and I put the whole Mega Man X Legacy. I was like this close to finishing the story and getting. It was one of those triple point games I mentioned.
Yeah. And
I put it on hold for basically a month because I was like, I need a palate cleanser to go play something else, and I'm going to come back to this like a month later. So I finally went through and finished X6 just at the end of October. So a couple weeks ago. I was like, all right, we're getting down to the wire because the event ends on the 15th, which is tomorrow. So I got to finish getting that story completion so I get those 3 points. But yeah, I was not digging it. And so that palate cleanser was playing through Mega Man X3 again, but I got to play through it in a new way. I'd never played it before, and it is definitely the best way to play X3. If you haven't played it, I definitely highly recommend Mega Man X3 Zero Project, because in Mega Man X3, that was the first time Zero was playable, but he's only playable for a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fan hack of the game, and they made it so you can switch back and forth between Mega Man and Zero at any time. You can play through the whole game with Zero if you want, and it is fantastic. So I played through that for the first time, and that was definitely an excellent palate cleanser. So if you do ever end up playing through the Mega Man X games, when you get to 3, I definitely recommend playing the Zero Project version of X3. So you can go online and find that. And dude informed me that it has retro achievements tied to it. So I got to play through it with achievements included, but it's a Super Nintendo game, so it didn't count for the GameCube launch event. But it was fun to play through Mega Man X3 for the 4th time for achievements.
Yeah, I mean that would be my add to my backlog is the Mega Man X games. Like I say, I like the other ones, the non-X games, but they are they're true classics in the sense of the word. You know, you can see where a lot of things and how they've progressed to get where they are. There's even Mega Man Legends. I don't know if you've seen that one.
So so the different branches, there's the classic Mega Man, there's the Mega Man X games, there's the Mega Man Battle Network games, there's the Mega Man Legends games.
Yeah.
And a lot of people love those. Those were on, they did have Mega Man 64, which was this basically Mega Man Legends 1, but I think it was stripped down a bit. The proper way to play the Legends games were on PlayStation. I never had a PlayStation, so I never played Legends 1 and 2. They never even released 2. I think Mega Man Legends 2, the only place you can play that is on PlayStation. I don't think it was released on any other platform. I could be wrong about that. But I always wanted to. I just never did because I didn't have the platform for it. And then the last one is the Mega Man Zero games. Those are great as well. Those were Game Boy Advance, and then they moved to the 3DS. The DS.
Okay, that's good. I should be able to get them on the DS.
Those are great as well. And there's also a collection of those as well, which I'm pretty sure you can get on anything, is the Mega Man Zero /ZX collection.
Yeah.
I've not finished beating that one. I've beaten in that collection. I've beaten 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I haven't beaten ZX or ZX Advent because ZX and ZX Advent you would think would be like my favorite Mega Man game because it basically turned it into a Metroidvania in that it's not a linear stage based. It's open. It's basically an open world in that there's areas that are interconnected and you can go wherever you want. And you do have to have like certain not abilities, but like certain weapons in order to get to certain areas. And being that Mega Man is like one of my favorite franchises and Metroidvania is my favorite genre, that should be right up my alley. But the way they did it was just poorly implemented, and I couldn't figure out where I needed to go because it's like the rooms are kind of grouped together by like theme, almost like a biome. And it's like you have rooms G 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have G rooms like B 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have rooms C 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever. And it's like, oh, I know my objective says I need to get to like B7, but if you haven't been there yet, it doesn't show up on your map. So I have no idea how to get to the area that I need to go to continue the story. So I never finished it. I will go back and finish it at some point. I just couldn't figure out where to go, so I never finished it.
Well, in this day and age too of having access to the internet, like I remember the gaming days before that, you had to just rely on talk at the playground and whatnot with the other kids as to, how to get places and what to do. And, there was Nintendo Power if you had a subscription to that.
I had that for many years.
Yeah. And
I still got a few of my issues.
Me too. No. Me too. It's nice to take a look back and be, oh yeah, you got to do this to, get a certain thing and how to get around. But
or there was also the tip lines you call it's like $3 a minute.
Yeah. Don't do that, boy. Parents get right upset.
I did that one time, and I asked my mom. I got permission to do it, and it was because I couldn't figure out in Link's Awakening how to do the claw game and get the Yoshi doll.
Okay.
And it's because you had to hold the button and then release it and then hold it again, because the first time you hold it, it moves it horizontally, and then when you release it and hold it again, then it moves vertically. And there was nothing to indicate that, and I couldn't figure it out, so I had to call in. And they're like, "Yeah, you got to hold it until you're at the right spot, then release it, then hold it again to move it into the right spot, and then release it, and then tap it to activate the claw."
That was well worth that $3.
Yeah, I'm sure it was probably more. It was probably like a 3 or 4 minute call, but that was the one time I had to call into one of those tip lines in order to figure out what to do.
There you go. Yeah, I'm big Mega Man fan as well. Like I've got a lot of his figurines. I got a couple of NT Warrior stuff. I even got the art book from Battle Network there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of like video game memorabilia collectability type of stuff. Like almost everything I've got is what you see behind me. I don't have like shelves and shelves of stuff. But because I love Mega Man so much, I do want to get a couple, like a Mega Man X and a Zero figure, because I do love them, and those are two of my favorite characters in video games. So I definitely want to.
That's what I always encourage people. It's if you like a franchise, support it, buy the merchandise, especially this relates more to, I think, anime, but you can do video games as well. But if you like a franchise, buy the stuff, and it's coming out, so get it. And it'll show your appreciation to the people to make the show.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things in my wish list. It's like I've been a couple of Mega Man and Zero figures that I've been like this close to pulling the trigger on. There's a number of things that like I may do it. I'm probably gonna wait till after Christmas, but I'll probably pull the trigger and get a few new things for my background here.
You're going to wait till they're 50% off, right?
Yeah. They're not new, so I doubt they're going to go on sale. But like I said, I'm patient and frugal.
That's good virtues to have. Yeah, being patient. If you just hang out long enough, you'll get it.
But the thing I was going to say about Mega Man and Metroidvanias is, unfortunately, ZX and ZX Advent haven't clicked with me. But if this game ever gets released, it might be one of my favorite games of all time. And there's a guy who's been making a fan-made Mega Man game, and it is absolutely a Metroidvania with a huge open interconnected world. And it has ability, because the two key cornerstones of the Metroidvania genre is not open world, but an interconnected world, and ability gating, where you get new abilities that allow you to reach areas you couldn't before. Those are like the two key cornerstones, and this has both of them. And it's Mega Man X. It looks like a game that would have come out on the Super Nintendo back in the the 90s, and it looks phenomenal. And he's been working on this thing for like 15 years, and I don't know if he's ever gonna finish it. But I was on his YouTube, because he got a YouTube page, and he posts videos of like his progress and stuff in different boss fights.
Yep.
All the time. And I was literally on his channel just earlier this week, because he's got like the first hour of the game as the like a lot of like big time YouTubers, when you go to their page, there's an automatically playing video. It's kind of like their this is what they want you to see, and that's the video on his page is the first hour of the game. And I watched through like the first like 30 minutes of that, and oh god, it just looks fan-freaking-tastic. So I hope one day we'll see it and it'll release to everyone, because it could become one of my favorite games of all time. The thing that I just learned just recently was part of the reason why it's taking so long is his hard drive crashed or something, and he didn't have backup, and so he had to start. He lost a ton of work and had to. I don't think he had to start from scratch, but he lost a ton of work and had to redo a lot of what he had already done. So I was like, that freaking sucks. But the game is called Mega Man X Corrupted, if you want to look into it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It looks phenomenal. Yeah, if you're interested in it, go check out his YouTube channel. I don't know if he has like a Patreon or anything to support him. If he does, I probably should do that, because if there's one game I've ever seen that I want to come out, this is it. Because that is the perfect blend of two of my favorite things, Mega Man and Metroidvania.
Yeah, let's buy this guy another hard drive just so he doesn't have this problem again,
Yeah. I was like, I don't know anything about, not anything, because I did take some programming classes in high school, because I was planning on going into computer science, but then programming was not what I thought it was going to be, and calculus was beyond me, so I changed majors. But I've got a little bit of object-oriented programming, but other than that, I have no experience in like making a video game. But I was like, if I could help this guy finish his game, maybe I should learn how to do that, so I could help contribute to make sure this thing actually sees the light of day sometime, because it looks phenomenal. So
yeah,
I want to say his YouTube is it's like JTX or something like that. It's just like a couple of letters.
Oh, JKB Games.
JKB, thank you. Yes, that's him. So if you like Metroidvanias and Mega Man, go check him out, because that is one of my most anticipated games, and it has been for like 15 years. He's been working on it for freaking ever.
And it's almost like fan-made games are done way better than like AAA studios. You have people that have the passion and the love for the characters.
They have
they know they want it. They want this thing to look good, play great. They're not just trying to push out a game just because there's a deadline.
Yeah, exactly. But a couple of things I was going to touch on the classic Mega Mans. Oh, yeah. So one of the things, not just classic Mega Mans, but one of the things that I've loved across pretty much all of the branches of Mega Mans that the only one I haven't played any of are the Legends games. And I say that with an asterisk, because I've told the story a few times, but I love retelling it. The one and only time I played Legends, Mega Man Legends, was Mega Man 64. And that friend I told you about, that he got the Mega Man Battle Network white version, and I got Mega Man Battle Network 3 blue version. It was that same friend. He had Mega Man X, or not Mega Man X, Mega Man 64. And I don't know if he owned it or whether he rented it or was borrowing it. But anyways, I went over his house one time, and when I got there, he was playing it, and he was on the final boss of the game. And he said he had been playing it like he couldn't beat the final boss. He was trying over and over and over again, and he couldn't do it. And he's like, "Here, you give it a shot." I'd never touched the game before, and I beat the boss in the first try. He was so pissed. It was hilarious. And that's the only time I played any version of Legends. I hadn't played the entire game. I never played Legends 2. I've only beaten the final boss of Mega Man 64. It was hilarious. So
since I've beaten it.
I beat it, but I don't qualify that as having played them. So I don't say that I've played the Mega Man Legends games, but I played all the classic ones except 11. I have it, but I haven't played it yet. I played all the X games. I have played Mega Man Battle Network 3. I haven't played any other ones, but they all play essentially the same. I played, like I said, I played 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a good chunk of ZX, but not ZX Advent. So I played most of that line of the Mega Man games. So I've well versed in the Mega Man franchise. And one thing that is consistent basically across all of them is music. Their music is fantastic. The Mega Man X soundtrack, I think I put it my number when we did our top 5 of Mega Man, not Mega Man, our top 5 video game soundtracks. I'm pretty sure Mega Man X was my number 2. That music is fantastic. And DJ Axis said his favorite Mega Man is Mega Man 2, and he is huge into music. That's his thing. Like, he makes music. Like, he's a producer. Do you know DJ Axis?
I've never met him. No.
Okay, you should probably have a chat with him sometime. But yeah, he like got started like just like messing around with music when he was a kid, and he got like he got snubbed on like a producer deal back in the day. It really, part of that story is kind of sad that he got snubbed in all these different ways. But like, he's legitimately knows how to do like music producing, and so he's like big into music, and he like loves the music in Mega Man. Like the classic ones, Mega Man 2 and 3. So, but just across all of the music is fantastic. So, do you have a anything that stands out to you to the music from the classic Mega Mans?
Oh, even from the very first game, like when you start out, it's got a good beat and rhythm to it. But because I played 3 a lot of those. Even the ones when you go to select the boss, like it's amping you up. You're like, oh, okay, here we go. We're going against the boss here. And yeah, just pick a stage. They're all good. They've done, whoever did the music did so well.
Yeah, for sure. I've only played through the classic ones basically once each, so I don't really know it off the top of my head very well, but I played Mega Man X 1, 2, and 3 like dozens of times, so I know the music and stuff from those ones a lot better. And there's a medley that's somebody on YouTube did of they did like a metal rendition, so they put a lot more like metal into the music because it's already pretty metal to begin with, but they metalify it even more. And they did a medley of a bunch of the Mega Man X songs. And I am single-handedly responsible for probably like 500 of the views of this video on YouTube because I've listened to it so many times because it is just so epic. I've linked that video in a few of my streams before because I talk about it pretty free every once in a while.
Yeah.
The YouTuber, his channel name is Family Jewels, and it's like not Jewels, it's like Juels. Or something along those lines.
Jewels.
But yeah, I recently just found out that he actually did the music for the. Are you familiar with the Crypt of the Necrodancer games?
I haven't played it, but I know what game you're talking about.
Okay, so I've not played them either, but I know about them and like how they play and like their gameplay loop and stuff.
Rhythm.
Yeah. So I just discovered just a couple weeks ago that the Family Jewels guy that I'm talking about, he actually did the music for the Crypt of the Necrodancer Cadence of Hyrule game.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, I was on his channel again. I was watching some of his other ones, and it auto played into another one, and it was not him playing music, him just talking about stuff. And it was about, I think they're doing another like Zelda crossover with Crypt of the Necrodancer, and so he's talking like people asking me like, "Hey, you can do the music? You can do the music?" I'm like, "Why would this random YouTuber do the music for a video game?" And he, in that video, he's like, "I did the music for the Crypt of the Necrodancer game, the Cadence of Hyrule." I'm like, "Oh, that's probably why, because he already did it." So yep. I was like, "That's crazy that a YouTuber got really big because he does metal covers of all sorts of different video game music, and they picked him to do the music for like." He did the official music for the game for the Cadence of Hyrule, and apparently they come out with another one, and he's doing the music for it again. So
That's incredible. That's the way, though. Eh? Good on him.
But yeah, he another one that I love that also does. He's smaller, but he does a lot of awesome metal covers of video game music. Is Toxic Eternity. So I definitely recommend checking those two guys out because they have fantastic video game metal covers. But yeah, Mega Man X. Oh, where's it going with that? I guess just that the music in the Mega Man games are fantastic.
Oh, undoubtedly, and anybody can attest to that if they've picked up and played any one of the games. You know, you'll find yourself head bobbing to the music. You know, no matter what stage you're on.
I feel like there was a couple other things I was going to mention, but did or already as is per usual when on open mic, it's like look at the time. It's already been 2 hours and 15 minutes since the started. So, do you want to keep going, or would this be a good time to wrap it up?
I'm okay to keep going. You know, I'm loving the game talk.
Okay. So yeah, there was a couple of things I was going to mention about Mega Man, but I don't remember what they were. But I did tell my Legends or Mega Man 64 story. So, what else was I going to say? So, yeah, well, maybe it'll come to me. So, all right. Well, what else is a big one of your favorite franchises? What are some of your favorite franchises?
Oh, I really and I'm not really a completionist, but I did go for completion on One Piece Odyssey for the PS4. I played that, so it combines my.
You're a big anime fan, so that makes sense.
Combines my favorite things, you know, One Piece anime and turn-based RPG.
Is One Piece your favorite anime?
It's up there. I can't say it's my number one favorite. It's up there with a bunch of them.
Do you have a favorite anime? Would you be able to pick one, or is that too tough?
Macross Frontier.
Okay. I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it, but that's more of a like sci-fi anime, right?
It is, yeah. And it's got the three things that make up a Macross story. It has a love triangle, it has an idol singer, and it's got aliens.
And idol, you mean like IDOL, not IDLE, right?
Yeah, not IDL, IDOL, yeah.
Okay.
Idol singer.
That's what I figured, like American Idol.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
and that has some good games too.
I'm not well versed in anime. Like I said, I haven't really watched a whole lot. But if we ever did a top 5 episode on animes, we definitely have to have you on. And then you would have to pick your top 5 and rank them.
I could do that, and I would love it if you would do that.
So, I would tell you I don't have a very big pool to pick from. I would tell you what my favorite is, but if we ever do I'll tell you off stream what my favorite is because I don't know if we'll ever do a top 5 anime because we typically keep it to video game centric topics, but we do like this last week we just did top 5 video game movies, so it was video game related but not exactly video games. There was we did top 5 comedy movies, and we did top 5 summer blockbuster movies. So it's not always video game, but it's typically video game focused, but not always. So we could do an anime one. It really depends on my co-host Jason. I don't know if he's into anime at all. So like I could pick a top 5 because I've seen at least 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's done any anime, so it'd be I'll ask him about it. I'll put it on my list, and maybe we'll do a top 5 at some point. If we do, then I'll definitely reach out to you because we like to have people on who are well versed in whatever the topic is.
So. Yeah, and I did a stream actually a couple months back where I did anime that were turned into video games or video games that were turned into anime. So I did have quite a extensive list of whichever way they went, whichever came first. So it was neat to see what was out there.
Okay. All right. So One Piece. I haven't seen it, but I heard a lot of good stuff about it. Did you watch? I'm assuming you probably watched the Netflix live action.
No.
Oh,
just because I didn't want to be disappointed. I'll let it be its own thing, and I've just stuck with the manga and the anime.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, with how much so many of our beloved franchises have been ruined by things like Netflix, Cowboy Bebop. I definitely understand the hesitation.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you didn't watch Cowboy Bebop anime or Netflix, but I'm assuming you probably like that anime as well because I know that's a big one.
It is a big one, and I did. We bought the Blu-ray. My wife and I, we watched it, and she loves it too. She's into anime as well. She's great. She's a great wife that I've managed to be with for the past 13 years or so. So,
nice.
Yeah, and
did you watch the Netflix Cowboy Bebop, or did you say no?
No, I did not.
Okay, yeah, I didn't either, but I heard a lot of people. I heard plenty about it from people.
Yeah, and that's all you need to know, right? It's just like, okay, so that's fine.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but like I just mentioned, there's so many of our beloved franchises from our from our past have just been defiled by these giant corporations that don't have any love for the source material, Halo.
I heard that was not very good either. I didn't watch it, but I heard that. And Angry Canadian was saying that was not very he was not very happy with that either.
I didn't watch it, but I watched it through other people's eyes, like people who like go through it like not frame by frame, but like scene by scene and talk about what's going on. So I saw it. But I definitely know enough to know that it was terrible. Not just because people said it was terrible, but I know why it was terrible. So I didn't watch it. But yeah, so many examples of that lately. One thing that I absolutely love and has yet to be ruined, and I almost don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it and have it be the next thing that gets ruined, but is that right there? Can you tell what that is?
Barely. I see a circle.
Here, maybe this will help better.
Oh, Stargate?
Yeah, this is my Stargate coaster. So I love Stargate. I'm rewatching it for the first time because I did watch SG1 when it was airing. I started watching it around season 6 or 7, which is actually where I'm in the show right now. But that was in the mid 2000s, so basically 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm rewatching it now for the first time, thanks to Fractured Filter. I think you know Fractured Filter, right?
I've seen him around. Yep.
Seen him around?
Okay. I knew who you're talking about.
He started doing watch parties on Saturdays after his Saturday stream, Saturday Night Sith, back in February. And it got me into I'd been wanting to rewatch it for a long time, but it's 17 seasons of Stargate. There's 10 seasons of SG1, 5 seasons of Atlantis, and 2 seasons of Stargate Universe. And I had the bug for years that I was like, I want to go back and watch through it all, but I just hadn't gotten around to it because it's like there's so many other things to do. So when he started watching it after his Saturday night streams, I was like, I got the bug. So I started watching it now too. And so I've been watching a couple episodes a week. So I'm currently in season 7. I started season 7 a couple days ago. But apparently there was a show or a mini series. I think it was animated. I haven't really looked into it, but it's called Stargate Origins, which I heard was terrible. But like no one really knows it even exists. I'm a big Stargate fan, and
first time hearing of it.
Yeah, and I'm a big Stargate fan. I know basically nothing about it. So apparently it was bad, but for the most part, it has been untouched, and it is still in its glory because Stargate SG-1 is fantastic. I love Stargate Atlantis even more than I liked SG-1. I haven't gotten into watching because I'm not going to watch 1 through 10 of SG, the 10 seasons of SG1 and then watch Atlantis because there's a lot of interconnection between SG1 and Atlantis, so they run concurrently.
Oh, okay.
At the end of SG1 season 7 is when Atlantis starts, and they would show back to back in the day on Sci-Fi Channel, where on Friday nights there would be an episode of SG1, and immediately after that would be an episode of Atlantis. And they run in the timeline, they run concurrently because there's overlapping stuff. There's characters that happen in both of them, things that happen in one, take place in the other as well. So that you don't want to watch them like seasons 1 through 10 of SG1 and then 1 through 5 Atlantis. You want to watch seasons 1 through 7 of SG1 and then kind of jump back and forth between Atlantis and SG1. So you keep up on what's going on in both of them at the same time is the best way to watch it. So I haven't gotten to, I'm in the beginning of season 7. That starts at the end of season 7. So I'll be getting to Atlantis very, very soon. Probably before the end of the year would be my guess. But SG-1 and Atlantis are both fantastic. Stargate Universe was okay. It wasn't bad. It's just, it it never seemed to really get going. And then when it finally started picking up pace at the end of season 2 was when it got cut and they had to end the show. I think that the way that they ended it was pretty good, but it had so much more potential that it never really did anything with. So I wasn't huge on Universe, but still, it was a decent show. It wasn't bad by any means. So all that to say is the Stargate franchise has not yet been ruined like a lot of our other beloved franchises. So I'm hoping it stays that way. And if they do something with it, I hope it's good. But I have no faith that if they do, because I know it's owned by Amazon now, they haven't done anything with it. But of all the companies to revive something, say what you will, but Amazon is probably the best bet because they do have god awful monstrosities like Rings of Power and no, Halo was Paramount. What was the other one that they had that was absolutely atrocious? Was it Wheel of Time? I think was.
Maybe
I want to say Wheel of Time, which I heard was. I don't know. I know nothing about that franchise, but I heard that the Wheel of Time that they did was god awful. So yes, Amazon has done terrible things with some of the franchises that they own, or IPs that they own, I should say. But they've also done some fantastic stuff too. It really depends on who's in control. Like, I think The Witcher is also under Amazon, and I know that went to crap because Henry Cavill, who's a big nerd, he was hard to work with because he's like, I want to keep it, to the source material. And they're like, no, we want to do what we want to do with it. And he's like, all right, well, I'm out then. And so I'm pretty sure Witcher is under Amazon, and that's why it's gone to crap too. And the Blood Origins was terrible, but they have done fantastic stuff as well. Like Terminal List was fantastic. Reacher has been great. Jack Ryan has been great. Those have been great shows. So it's kind of a 50-50 coin flip. So there is hope that things that Amazon owns, they can do good stuff with it.
That's the hope anyway. But yeah, I see what you're saying. And as far as Stargate goes, I remember watching the movie back in the day. I think I watched it on VHS when we rented it from the video store. And what a great movie.
Yeah, a couple of my movies that I remember that me and my dad really bonded over when I was a kid was Stargate and the original Top Gun. Those were like two of our favorite, and Star Wars: The Original Trilogy.
Nice.
But those were like the things that my dad and I were like really bonded over. Good times. And then it's funny because we love Stargate. So when we found out that there was a sequel, there was Stargate SG-1 Children of the Gods, which what it actually is, it's not a sequel. It's the pilot episode of the TV show of SG-1.
Oh,
but it's just two episodes back to back. So it's the length of a movie. It's an hour and a half. And we rented it, and I was probably like, I don't know, like 13 at the time. And the original release of Children of the Gods, there was full frontal nudity, and we had no idea. So when it happened, we're both like, whoa, was not expecting that. So all the they have like past, like, or not past, but like releases of it since then, because there's been a couple of different releases of Children of the Gods, which is just the first two episodes of SG-1 back to back. Listen, obviously the one that's on TV is edited, but they've been a number of different releases. Like there was the DVD release, there's the Blu-ray release, which is what I got. And then I think they re-released it again for the 4K Blu-ray. So that's what I have is the 4K Blu-ray.
Nice.
But there have been a number of different releases, and some of the releases have the edited one, and then some of them have the non-edited one. So if you're looking for that, you got to look into which version you're getting to determine which version of that first episode you have on whether it's the was not expecting that or not. But hey, we got Devastators here. What's up, Devastator? Good to see you tonight. Hey, everyone. So we're probably getting close to wrapping up, but yeah, SG-1 and Atlantis are tied for probably my favorite TV show ever. So
yeah, that's some good TV. I mean, you're talking about classic shows, that's That's good stuff. And I'm a big Star Trek fan. I remember watching TNG when it came out. And
yeah, I was never big in. I was a huge Star Wars fan, but I was never big into Star Trek. So I saw a decent amount of TNG and Voyager, but that was about it. I've seen the original motion picture, but other than that, I have not seen any of the other classic Star Trek movies. I have seen all the ones since Generations.
Okay.
For the movie side of things, but when it comes to TV shows, I've seen bits and pieces of TNG and Voyager, but not a whole lot. So I know anytime, not that Star Trek comes up on my streams terribly often, but I've had Nerdporial on a couple times, and how much he loves Star Trek. So the last time I had him on, the first like 15 minutes, we were just talking Star Trek because of how much he loves it. And Angry Canadian, he wasn't watching it live, but after the next day, he's like, "How much did you guys talk about Star Trek?" And I'm like, "It was only like the first 15 minutes." I was like, "All right, I'm going to skip to after the first 15 minutes."
Yeah, that sounds like him. All right.
So yeah, a lot of people like Star Trek is like their sci-fi show, or definitely more recent along the lines of SG-1. Like I know a lot of people liked like Battlestar Galactica. I never really watched that. But yeah, Stargate was my thing. Although not when it was new. Like I said, I didn't start watching it until it was in towards the later seasons, like season 7 was when I got into it. But I love Stargate shows. Those are my sci-fi TV shows. The next one that I'm going to watch once I get through not SG-1, but when I get through all the Stargate shows again, because it was on that stream when I had Nerdporial on for Open Mic a month or two ago. He's like, "Dude, you got to watch not Andromeda, because I heard that, but that was also in that same kind of time frame. It was Babylon 5. He's like, "Dude, you got to watch Babylon 5. So thanks to Nerdporial, when I do finish getting through Stargate again, I'm going to watch Babylon 5 for the first time.
Yeah, I heard that was really good too. And I was around when it was first on, but I didn't really get into it.
Yeah, he told me a lot about it. Like I said, Mass Effect is my number one favorite video game franchise. He's like, Mass Effect pulls from Babylon 5 a lot. So if you like Mass Effect, you'll probably love Babylon 5. So like, all right, well,
there you go.
When I get through Stargate, which is gonna be a while, I'll watch Babylon 5 next.
So what me and my wife will do is because I'm quite a bit older than she is. She's in her mid 30s. So I've watched stuff that she has never been around for. And so we'll pull old shows and watch them. So we've watched like all of Mission Impossible, all of The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, are you talking about like the Mission Impossible like TV show from like the 60s?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
that exact one.
Because I didn't even know that existed for the longest time. And someone's talking about Mission Impossible like being really old. I'm like, the 90s isn't that old. They're like, no, I'm talking about from the 60s. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, Mission Impossible was a show in the 60s. I'm like, I had no idea. And that was only like a couple of years ago. So, yeah.
So we'll watch that. I'll just buy the whole season. I'll find it on Amazon or whatever, buy the whole season, and we'll just watch old shows, like that one, Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. I've heard of a movie called Man from U.N.C.L.E. from a couple of years ago. Is it related in any way?
They've obviously rebooted it from years ago, but back in the 60s, again, there was the show, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It starred Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. And
I never even heard of it until the movie came out.
Yeah. So what's old is new again. They just pull from the old stuff. And right now we're watching Quantum Leap with Scott Bakula.
Oh,
and that's a great show.
I know of the name. I think I remember seeing the commercials for it back when I was a kid. And, we actually saw things with commercials because we watched live TV. And I was like, that show looks cool, but I've never seen a second of it outside of the commercials. I bet you I'd probably like that one.
If you like time travel,
I love time travel.
It's so do I. I'm a big time travel nut. I really go for it. And he leaps into other people's bodies and lives their lives and tries to right things that went wrong during the timeline.
That sounds fantastic.
It is. It's great.
I'm gonna put that on. I'm definitely gonna put that down to watch that eventually at some point.
Yeah. It's very enjoyable. Quantum Leap with Scott Bakula.
When did that air?
It started in 1989.
Okay, I was gonna say it had to have been at least late 80s, if not early 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I definitely got to look into that. While we're on the topic of 90s shows that involve time travel, It was a pretty short. I think it only had like 2 or 3 seasons, and I've only seen bits and pieces of it because I only caught it when it happened to be on. But I thought it was such a great premise, and I thought it ran for a lot longer until just like this year. I looked it up again. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that show even existed. And I looked it up, and it lasted for like only like a couple of seasons. But I love the premise. Did you ever watch 7 Days?
7 Days.
Have you heard of 7 Days?
I don't think so. Let me check
based on your trepidation, I'm assuming that the answer is no. But if you like time travel shows from the 90s, check out 7 Days. The government has a time machine, but it can only go back in time 7 days. So when disaster strikes, they send them back 7 days to try to figure out what happened and try to stop it before it happens. It was a really clever concept. Like a government agent that would go back 7 days to fix things. It was great.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to add that to my list of things to watch.
So,
yeah, 7 days. Okay, good. Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't know. I had never heard of Man from U.N.C.L.E. until the movie came out a couple years ago. I haven't even seen the movie. I just know that there's a movie called Man from U.N.C.L.E. I don't know who's in it.
Yep.
I don't know what it's about. What is the premise of either the movie or the show? I'm assuming that they are based on the same thing. Like, what's the premise of it?
So I'm gonna of course I'll talk about the television show because that's what we watched. It's during obviously the Cold War, right? Big bad Russia. These guys are spies, and they have to carry out missions to do certain things, eliminate certain people, get certain information from other enemy spies and such, and that's what they do. Okay. They go around the world, and they do all that kind of spy stuff.
Okay. And sorry if I just asked you this question. When did Man from U.N.C.L.E. air?
Give you an exact date here, man.
Just around the time. Like, what decade was it?
It's got to be like 64. Yeah, okay, 64 to 68.
Way back there.
Yeah.
Decades before I was born.
Yep, same here.
Okay. Is it in color?
I think the first season is not.
Okay.
But then I want to say after that it is.
Okay.
Because 64 is when they made the switch from black and white to color.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, that would have been around the time where color TVs were new. Yeah. So
oh, the movie you're talking about, it's got Henry Cavill in it.
Okay, I thought so, because a lot of the times people talk about Henry Cavill. That's the reason why I've heard that name so much. Man from U.N.C.L.E. is when people talk about Henry Cavill. It's like, I literally have never even seen the trailer for this movie. I just heard people mention it when talking about Henry Cavill. So I was like, I'm pretty sure Man from U.N.C.L.E. had Henry Cavill in it.
Yes.
But for some reason, I was under the impression that Man from U.N.C.L.E. was a movie that took place in like the 30s and was like just like some random like character drama. So that was way off. So very wrong. Like I said, I know nothing about it, but my mental image of the movie was way off from what it actually was. So,
and if you do watch the show, you're going to see stars that hadn't made it big yet. So you'll see like a young William Shatner, young Leonard Nimoy.
They were both in that?
Yes.
Wow.
Just in single episodes, but it's like, oh, look at this guy.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. That's always cool. I don't know with like TV shows, but there's been plenty of times where I could go back and watch a movie from when I was either a kid or maybe like my early teenage years and see someone who I didn't know was in the movie because they weren't a name at the time, and now they're a big name person. It's like, I had no idea this person was in this movie because no one knew who he was back then. Like exactly. On top 5 video game movies the other night, both Tomb Raider movies had someone who had this. The first Tomb Raider movie had Daniel Craig in it, but no one knew who he was back then. And then the second one had Gerard Butler. So when I went back and watched those movies again, I was like, I had no idea they were in these movies because I didn't know who they were at the time.
Yeah, that's always neat to see that.
Another example I've used a couple times is Vin Diesel being in Saving Private Ryan.
Okay. I had no idea he was in there.
Yeah, exactly. Because Fast and Furious movies were what really put him on the map, and those weren't out yet. So, So I remember when I went back and watched it, it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't know Vin Diesel was in it because no one knew who he was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like I say, that's why my wife and I will do that. We'll watch old television series. We'll watch one called Emergency, and that's about paramedics in the 1970s.
Okay, I was like, isn't that ER? But no, that's
No, no, it's just
a
called
different one.
Emergency. Yeah,
Emergency.
yeah. So we'll pick all sorts of stuff to do. There was one called, was it called Robot Cop or something like that?
I've never heard. Oh, I haven't heard of Emergency either, but I definitely haven't heard of Robot Cop. I've heard
It
of
might have been
RoboCop.
RoboCop, yeah, but it wasn't. It was something. It was a television series, and it was about an android police officer. And I think even Ernest Borgnine was in it.
I don't know that name.
But yeah, it's it like I say, we'll pick shows, we'll watch them, and it's like, hey, look, this is what another one, Automan. You ever heard of Automan?
Never heard of it either. And I'm assuming it's AUTO.
AUTO, yeah, Automan, and it stars Desi Arnaz Jr. and that's Lucille Ball's son.
Okay.
It's you'd almost swear you're watching Tron because they use a lot of those lighting effects that they do on that, and it's funny. Not very long.
It's funny you mentioned Tron because that was my number one it was on top 5 this week when we were video game movies. It wasn't necessarily video games that were movies that were video game adaptations, but movies that were video game centric. So Tron qualified, and Tron Legacy was my number 1.
Ah, yes, I remember that. Yeah, that was good. But if you watch Automan, I believe it's from 1983.
It's very Tron-like.
Yes, it is, and they did really well. But I think it was like the most expensive to produce with all the special effects they had going on.
I bet.
Yeah,
because I mentioned on top 5 how Tron was 82, I think it was.
Yep.
And it was kind of mind blowing at the time for how amazing it looked. But I didn't see the original Tron until I think after I saw Tron Legacy. So it was maybe about 10 years ago, and I was like, I don't get why people love this movie. This looks terrible, but this is 30 years after it came out. So, but I do, a lot of people didn't care for Tron Legacy, but I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, I've seen both, and I watched the original when we saw it on VHS, and we actually watched it back when you had to rent the VHS player and the movie. So
I rented plenty of VHSs, but I don't think we ever rented the VCR because I always remember having a VCR.
Yeah,
but I definitely remember renting VHSs and making sure to rewind it before you send it back.
Yeah, be kind, rewind.
I remember when DVDs were new, there were people trying to con people and selling them DVD rewinders to the stupid people.
Yeah. Oh man, what a revolution to have lived through, going from VHS to DVD. Well, it was VHS, Laserdisc, and then DVD.
Yeah, I didn't even know Laserdisc existed until years after DVD was around.
Yeah, it was actually analog. It wasn't digital, believe it or not.
Oh, that's right.
Technology. So
it's it's a disc, but it's analog, not digital. It's how does that work? Yeah.
I mean, they were going in the right direction, but you just couldn't record to them, and they were just not long enough. They didn't have enough capacity.
And they were big CDs, right?
12-inch in diameter, you bet.
Yeah, they're like records, but not vinyl.
Nope.
Yeah, I never saw one in person, but I heard about it. But one thing you mentioned about Robot Cop, not RoboCop, because that was a movie, not a show.
Yeah.
That was kind of along those lines, and I watched the pilot and I really liked it, but I never ended up watching it. I only got 1 season. I heard it was pretty good. It was a bummer it didn't get renewed, but I think it was because it had a really big budget, and it had Carl Urban, who I love him. He's a great actor.
Oh yeah, he is.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
Not just yet.
Okay, so there was a TV show probably about 10 years ago where it was him, and it was in the future. I don't know. It was in the near future. I don't know what the year it was set in, maybe 2040 something. And he was an officer, and he was paired with his partner was an android, basically from the movie, from the game Detroit Become Human.
Okay.
Do you? I haven't played it since it's the PlayStation exclusive, but I know well enough about the game because I know how Quantic Dream games work. Are you familiar with Quantic Dreams and how their games are?
The name sounds familiar. Quantic Dreams. I've never played any of the
any of their games.
Any of their games, I don't
A
think.
lot of their games are more so of like playable movies, and that you make choices, and there's not a whole lot of gameplay. It's more of like you make choices and see how they play out.
Okay.
But in Detroit Become Human, it takes place in the future, and people have like their androids. They look like people, but they have like a little light ring on their temple, so you can know that they're not actually human, that they're a robot. But it was basically like that, where Karl Urban and his partner is an android, and they're on the police force, and they do police things. And I don't remember much about it because I only watched the pilot, but I really liked the premise, and I liked the pilot. I just never got around to watching the whole show, and unfortunately, it only lasted for one season. So, if you like that premise, I'd say check out Almost Human. I'm pretty sure that's what the show was called, Almost Human.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Oh, and the one I was thinking of, not Robot Cop, is Future Cop.
Future Cop. Okay, I've not heard of that one either. I know of Axe Cop, but
Axe Cop.
Do you know about Axe Cop?
I don't. Nope.
It's pretty funny. It was, so the main character is a cop, and he's voiced by Ron Swanson. You know Ron Swanson?
That name sounds familiar.
He was his main claim to fame was being Ron Burgundy. Not Ron Burgundy. Sorry, that's Will Ferrell from Anchorman. Nick Offerman is the actor's name. Ron Swanson was his character in Parks and Rec.
Okay.
He's the curmudgeonly kind of mustache guy who's all super manly.
Yeah.
The gif that you see him the most of him is him throwing his PC in the dumpster. You see the memes of people throwing something in the dumpster. It's usually that clip of him from Parks and Rec. So that's Nick Offerman. He voices the character Axe Cop. And the premise of Axe Cop was, it has a bunch of other big name voice actors in it too. I don't remember any of the other ones, but Axe Cop is the main character, and it was really goofy. And I want to say it was probably about 10 years ago. And the story, the like written, is basically the animator's like 5-year-old kid just comes up with all these like wacky things that happen, and then he takes that and animates it and makes it the show. So it's basically written by a 5-year-old's imagination, and he turns it into a TV show. So it's like has like nothing like makes any sense. Just things are like crazy wacky because basically a kid's imagination running wild. So they don't that's all behind the scenes stuff of like how the show got made. So you wouldn't really know that watching. If you're just watching, it's like, why is all this random stuff happening, and why are these like weird characters that make no sense? That's why. So it's just the wacky adventures of Axe Cop, and it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty short. It's only like a season, maybe 2, but it was entertaining. But yeah, you said what did you say your show was called? Future Cop.
Future Cop. Yeah,
that reminded me of Axe Cop.
Axe Cop. It's probably written better than anything the Hollywood puts out.
For sure. And yeah, it was just entertaining. It was stupid. It made no sense, but it was really fun.
That's what we want. We're here for the fun.
So, all right. Well, you said you had a time that you kind of wanted to depart, and I think we're getting kind of close to that. So if this isn't a good time, I've had a great time chatting with you.
Oh, it's been fun. This has been great.
Yeah. So thanks for thanks for not having me on. Thanks for coming on. And if Carl is still there, thank you for, like I said, I knew you from Norporial's chat from way back in the day, but it was really when you were on Carl's channel a couple weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I want to talk to him too. So thank you, Carl, for, not really making this happen, but, kind of really putting Pop Culture Mechanic on my radar. And I was like, he'd be great to chat with. So I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. Normally this is basically just about video games, but it could go off into tangents about other stuff too. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I've had a great time, and I appreciate you asking me to come on here and reminiscing about stuff, and video games for the majority of the time. But if we can, we veered off into other places, which was, that was fun too. Talk about the things we like.
Yeah. So, Before we say goodnight, what you got going on that you want to plug?
Well, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I do the weekend streams. Saturday is retro games. Right now, playing Yu-Gi-Oh for the DS. Sunday is anime chat. You can stop by. On both days. It's at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, so I'm earlier for some people, not early at all for others, depending on where you are. And then on Tuesday is Trades Talk Tuesday, which is an evening stream, and I talk about how to get into the skilled trades, what to expect, and I share some pictures and videos of projects I've been a part of, and hopefully interest people that don't have a career in the trades, maybe think about getting into it.
Sweet. So I just dropped the link to his channel in the chat, but I do also have the link preloaded into the stream description if you want to go check him out. But I just realized that it's not correct in the stream description, so it's not an actual link. But I will fix that as soon as the stream is over. But yeah, had a great time chatting with you. So if you ever want to come back and just chat some more, let me know. Open mic that's what it's here for, is just to have a great conversation with people. So
sounds great.
And since video gaming is kind of my thing, that's usually what it focuses on. But sometimes we'll veer off into other topics as well. Like when I had Spartacus on, we talked a whole bunch about what's that big robot anime that is like probably one of the top ones, like
Gundam.
Thank you. Yes, we spent a lot of time talking about Gundam because he loves Gundam. So we'll veer off into other topics. But yeah, that'll do it. So thank you for joining me, and yeah, go check out Pop Culture Mechanics channel. Like I said, just dropped the link in the chat. And as for myself, the next things I got coming up, I got nothing tomorrow night. On Friday. And this weekend, I am actually free, which is unusual. I used to be able to stream on the weekends, but I'm not anymore. But I am free this weekend. So I will be on Carl's channel on Saturday evening/afternoon. And we are talking about Halo franchise because, as I just mentioned a couple of days ago, was the 20th anniversary of Halo 2. And Halo 1 also came out in November. So Halo is kind of like November is kind of Halo month, even though Halo 3 actually launched in September. But we think of November as Halo month. So we're talking all things Halo over on Carl's channel on Saturday evening. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the next episode, not really an episode, but the next Mass Effect Monday is this upcoming Monday. So if you want to play Mass Effect 3 multiplayer with me, let me know. I've got it on PC and on Xbox, so we can do either. I've got a lot of interest on both, so we may have to split it, doing some on PC and some on Xbox. But if you are interested, let me know. And I've got a channel in my Discord specifically for Mass Effect. So if you're as big of a Mass Effect fan as I am, go join that channel. And I ping that channel whenever I play Mass Effect 3 because I play it off stream plenty as well. So if you want to know when I'm playing so you can come in and join me, go join that channel, and I'll let everyone know whenever I play Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. Next Tuesday is the next episode of Party Chat, and my co-host, I'm his co-host on his Monday streams, is Static 2020 is going to be our guest host. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then next Wednesday, instead of doing Dude Souls, I will be on Carl's channel again, and we're doing the same thing as our Halo stream on Saturday, but instead of Halo, we are talking all things Mass Effect because November is also Mass Effect month. N7, November 7th is N7 day, and it launched in November as well. So we're talking all things Mass Effect because those, Mass Effect is our favorite my favorite franchise, and I think it's also his number one, if not number two favorite franchise. So, but yes, that will do it for tonight. Thank you for joining me. I had a great time chatting with you, and as always, the time just flies by when you're having fun. So, well, you have a good night, Pop Culture Mechanic, and look forward to chatting with you again sometime in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Neo.
So, everyone else that was in chat, thanks for hanging out with us for any amount of time. Always appreciate you guys showing up and showing some support. So, we will see you all later. You have a good night. We'll catch you next time. And as always, in the meantime, game on.